The man had grinded through a game for 999 days straight, but the moment he stood up, he realized he was no longer at home. He was inside the game world. Before this, he had once been a special forces soldier. Tired of the dull city life, a game called Picard became his only lifeline. Just as he was about to clear it, a mysterious call came in. The caller knew his every move. Terrified, he quickly shut off the game. When he opened his eyes again, he was no longer himself, but the in-game character, Audrey as Cromwell. An orphan from a fallen noble family, the worst of the Academy's students, forever shrouded in the shadow of death. In this world, everyone had only one mission: slay monsters and hunt down forbidden mages. When the truth about Karen being a necromancer was exposed, he was executed immediately, and as his adopted disciple, Audrey's was also marked for death. Before the story even began, his only option was to escape Karen's grasp and avoid the eyes of the protagonist party. The scene shifted to Rodran Academy, the Empire's most prestigious school. Every promising talent came here to study, and hidden in plain sight, Karen the Necromancer lurked within these very halls. On this day, Audrey has found everything about this place strangely unfamiliar. He couldn't even remember where last week's documents were making Karen snap. Idiot. Can't even keep track of last week's files. Necromancers studied the forbidden arts. If exposed, the Empire's laws demanded instant execution, which meant their experiments had to be carried out in secret. Soon, a magic circle was drawn. As Karen chanted, the corpse began to glow blue, slowly levitating into the air. But moments later, it remained motionless. Karen exploded in rage. Damn it, another failure. His foul mood made it clear. He had no intention of teaching Audrey's anything that day. The cleanup, as always, fell to Audrey's. Risky and exhausting, yet yielding almost no benefit. The only reward was access to forbidden grimoires. That alone kept him from leaving. When he reported back, Karen scolded him again for being too slow. To Karen, he was nothing but worthless trash, and if he ever lost even this small value, Audrey's knew he would become the next test subject. Day after day, he completed every task yet never received a single reward. And now, another errand awaited him. When Audrey stepped out of the chamber, the other students looked on in shock. For in their eyes, he was nothing but a talentless coward. A notorious scoundrel who should have been expelled long ago, kept only because he served as Karen's assistant. Yet no matter how unwilling he felt, Audrey's Cromwell had no choice but to keep living under that identity, which meant staying far away from the protagonist party and avoiding direct contact at all costs. But could Audrey's really clear this world like a game? At this moment, he had no choice but to grow stronger before the story began. Next came the time for him to obtain 2 traits belonging to a necromancer. He opened the attribute panel where every staff in the game appear before him. Data he already knew by heart, so he had to choose one that matched a necromancer, and then an option he had never seen in the game caught his attention: evolution. Its meaning was clear: to keep raising the level of a creature. If a summoned undead could evolve continuously, he wouldn't need to hunt for stronger ones. Without hesitation, he pressed confirm. He couldn't help but wonder what kind of future this would bring him. But one thing was certain: he had to clear this world as Audrey's Cromwell and keep on living. The scene shifted, bringing him back to the dormitory. Audrey's had been just a low-level villain in the game, but living it firsthand, he realized he was practically useless. He hadn't even mastered a single elemental spell. He couldn't afford to waste time. He had to gain the ability to protect himself before the story truly started, because here, beyond Karen, countless others could kill him at will. The danger was no different in this underground chamber. After yesterday's observation, he confirmed that a vampire was imprisoned here. In the game, vampires were not only able to walk freely under sunlight, but also wielded powerful magic. She was not the kind Karen could capture easily, for she was as strong as a mid-game boss. While Audrey's was studying necromancy, she suddenly spoke to him. She had noticed how cautious he had been toward Karen recently, acting less and less like the Audrey's she remembered. Because of that, she believed he would set her free and even promised not to kill him. But could a highborn creature like her truly keep her word to a human? If he betrayed Karen now, things would spiral out of control. He decided to first study more about vampires before making any move. Soon after, Karen gave him another task: to retrieve a corpse from the National Cemetery. That place was a hub for necromancers' secret trades, but entry required answering the guard's code. Luckily, he still retained a faint memory of it. Otherwise, he might have been the one dragged in as merchandise. Before him stood an old man, the broker who sold corpses to black magicians. This time, Audrey is needed to buy the body of Night. He then forced a 2-meter giant into a 28-inch suitcase. Just as he was about to leave, another tombstone caught his attention. The name carved upon it felt strangely familiar. Suddenly, remembered it was the grave of Niall Foxy, the sword chi master from a game. A man who devoted his entire life to the way of the sword. Even after reaching the rank of sword master, he could not escape death. His passing had been nothing more than an Easter egg in the game. Yet no one ever knew that in his final moments, he had actually stepped into the true realm of a sword chi master. Audrey has thought, if I could forge a death knight from this body. But there was a problem. Even Karen couldn't summon such a high-tier death soldier. Could someone like him really succeed? Still, with the evolution trait now perhaps he had a chance. The potential of this body was far too great to ignore. He immediately called out to the corpse dealer, Paimon. He asked if the body beside it could also be sold to him. Paimon hesitated, replying without Karen's permission, this would be hard to justify. After a brief silence, Audrias made his decision. He offered the most valuable ring he owned in exchange. When Paimon saw the noble crest engraved on it, his eyes widened. He knew that in the market, this ring was worth far more than a corpse. As Paimon wavered, Audrias shoved the ring into his hand. Even if it came from a fallen noble family, it was something he could never refuse. Indeed, money could solve everything, and if it didn't, it simply meant there wasn't enough of it. Looking at the sword master's body, Audrias silently hoped it would bring him a miracle. Ever since gaining the evolution trait yesterday, he had finally seen a glimpse of hope. After returning, he would need to practice necromancy without delay, for time was already running short. When he came back from the cemetery, Karen immediately urged him to keep working. Though Audrey is burned with anger, his body reacted instinctively, making him work even faster. It was clear he had endured countless beatings from Karen before. He had to finish the chores quickly and prepare for his very first summoning attempt. But with his current skill level, he could only handle an ordinary skeleton. Could he really summon something using Nai's body? Though he had the evolution trait, he was still uncertain. He was penniless without even the chance to buy a cheap corpse for practice. At that moment, the sound of chains rattling cut through the air. When are you gonna let me out? Audrias turned to see the vampire still awake. Hurry and release me. I swear I won't kill you, or do you plan to live as his dog forever? Audrias walked straight to her, for he had been waiting for her to speak first. He had always wondered how Karen managed to bind her until he found the answer in a book about vampires. Seeing him unmoved, the vampire sensed his hesitation. She turned sharply. If you don't decide now, even if you free me, I might just kill you anyway. Vampires truly were a proud race. Audrey has finally agreed. I'll let you go because I'm sick of doing Karen's chores. She quickly stepped forward, demanding he undo her restraints, but Audrey's reply froze her in place. Not unless you swear on your family name that you'll never kill me. Her reaction proved what the book had said was true. When a vampire swore upon their bloodline, they could not break their oath. Still, would such a proud creature really make that vow? After a moment's hesitation, she declared, I swear by the name of Lucifer, I will not kill you. Audrias hadn't expected it to be that simple. No ritual, no ceremony. At the same time, a system prompt appeared. Target detected Angela Lucifer. Evolution chance 55%. Faced with the sudden notice, Audrias was baffled. What exactly did this percentage mean? Checking the description, he learned with enough accumulated experience, a target could be upgraded from low tier to high tier, and it could be applied to any non-hostile entity. That meant he could evolve not only his summons but others as well. Perfect. He could test it on her before trying on Ye. Even if she died, Karen would never know. Audrey has confirmed the evolution. The vampire instantly went berserk, her aura flaring, her face twisting into a monstrous snarl. Audrey hadn't expected such a violent reaction. What did you do to me? She roared. A surge of overwhelming energy nearly suffocated her. A moment later, she collapsed, foaming at the mouth. Audrey is staggered back in shock. She lay motionless on the ground. He had no way to know if the evolution had succeeded, but one thing was certain. If he could evolve someone else, his own summons would definitely evolve too. Wasting no time, he carved out a summoning circle. Chanting the incantation, his mana gathered at his chest. Basic necromancy, skeleton summon. One suitable material detected. The corpse floated upward, draining his mana to the brink of collapse. In seconds, flesh peeled away, leaving nothing but bone. The skeleton suddenly stood, startling Adria's. Summon complete skeleton soldier, rank legendary because Nya had broken through as a sword chi master before death. This skeleton carried not only immense power, but also fragments of his consciousness and sword insight. Normally, only one who had mastered swordsmanship to its peak would gain such comprehension. A skeleton with this much awareness was unthinkable. Adrias quickly asked if he had truly been a sword chi master in life. The skeleton raised his hand, gesturing as though writing. The words appeared clear. "For now on, I leave it to you." He followed with an okay gesture. Audrey has smiled, "Then I'll leave it to you as well." The scene shifted back to the dormitory. On the wall, the date reminded him. Only 1 year remained before Karen's execution. He had accelerate his growth. Every cast of a summoning spell raised proficiency. He immediately summoned Nya again. Soon, the skeleton stepped out from the summoning space, but if anyone saw him, it would spell disaster. Adrias had to disguise him. Once dressed in clothes and wearing a mask, the skeleton looked nearly human. Then, without warning, he began practicing sword swings. Even in death, he hadn't abandoned training, true obsession. For Adrias, it was a blessing. He called out, "Can you teach me swordsmanship?" Neitz stopped his movements. Taking up a wooden stick, Neitz began correcting Adria's stance again and again. Adria's body crackled with strain, his frail constitution struggling to keep up. Fortunately, Ni taught with patience, truly worthy of being a sword chi master. If Adri is trained under him properly, perhaps he too could wield sword chi. Normally, one had to choose between magic and swordsmanship, but Adria's dual core trait allowed him to switch freely between mana in the heart and chi in the dantian. This meant he could walk both paths at once. Though his progress would be slow, if he survived the early stages, he could one day surpass anyone. Yet the old Adrias had never known how to train this body, which was why his growth had been mocked as worthless. Suddenly, Nia pinched Adrias's arm hard, startling him. With a stern look, Neat gestured, "Focus." Adrias hadn't expected such strictness, but as a former soldier, physical training was nothing new to him. He resolved to rebuild this body with sheer military grit. Still, Naya kept pinching him relentlessly. Adrias muttered under his breath. The scene shifted again. After an entire afternoon of training, dusk had fallen. Once more, Adrias had skipped his academy classes. Training with Naya, Adrias couldn't tell how much his necromancy had improved. Opening the attribute panel, he saw that after roughly 5 hours of practice, his skill bar had risen by 2 points faster than he expected. But after the beginner level, necromancy would slow down considerably. During this time, Karen hadn't contacted him at all, which meant he hadn't noticed the vampire's change. Until the evolution was complete, Adrias still had plenty of time. There was no problem for now. Just then, the sharp sound of clashing echoed nearby. Undead never felt exhaustion. Their training never ceased. Impressive, Adrias thought, if only I had recovery potions, I could train while restoring stamina as well. But potions were prohibitively expensive, far beyond what ordinary people could afford. If he could brew them himself, the cost would drop drastically. He knew the necessary ingredients, but not the exact ratios or heat control. The only way was to attend academy classes for more knowledge. The scene shifted. He pushed open the classroom door. His classmates gawked in disbelief before whispering, "He must be here to flirt with the girls." Their blatant ridicule made Adrias grit his teeth. He forced himself to endure. Then a girl with pink hair caught his attention. She was one of the game's characters. As the teacher lectured on herbs, the content matched the game almost exactly. If only he'd hurry to the formula ratios, Adrias thought, but then the lecture deviated. The 3 ingredients the teacher listed would produce a potion full of side effects. Adrias immediately raised his hand. "Shouldn't we add soul silk extract or the outer bark of a Madarota root?" At once, every gaze turned to him. The teacher frowned. "If you really want, try adding them during your own experiments." Laughter erupted across the room, but Adrias knew the truth. Those ingredients were essential for stamina potions. The teacher's ignorance proved one thing. This recipe hadn't yet been invented. "I don't need to waste time here," he thought. "I already know more than the teacher. Better to research on my own." Still, his words had caught the attention of Lucia. The scene shifted again, this time to the Academy's research lab. After countless attempts, he still failed. Adrias slammed the table. "Damn it. I know the formula, but I need a reliable method to craft it." The materials cost far more than expected, and he knew no one would help someone like Audrey as a so-called piece of trash. Just then, the lab door creaked open. A pink-haired head peeked inside. Audrey is senpai. I knew you'd be here. Her sudden appearance startled him. Damn. Why would a character show up here? She was one of the player characters. Lucia Elberst, a genius in potion making, born with extraordinary talent. According to the story, she shouldn't even cross paths with Audria's. He figured if he ignored her, she'd leave on her own. Instead, she teased, Senpai, are you working on some kind of experiment? Audria's shut his eyes and stayed silent. She must have followed him after class. Not only had she gained nothing, she had even tailed him here. Seeing no response, Lucia sighed. Seriously? You're not going to acknowledge me? She added, I didn't expect you to start the conversation, but your silence is puzzling. Then she stepped forward. Senpai, why not research together? Working with me won't hurt you. Won't hurt me? More like trouble. Audrey has thought, but cornered as he was, he asked, why do you insist on working with me? Lucia replied lightly, I just want a research partner, that's all. You have unlimited potential, Senpai. One day you'll create better potions. And besides, I'm working on a cure that hasn't even been invented yet. So this is the future master of alchemy? Lucia's mastery of potions wasn't just talent. If she failed to cure her own illness, she would eventually die. Not even the most renowned doctors or apothecaries could save her. With no other choice, she had to research on her own. The illness was rooted in her very constitution, but in truth it was nothing more than a system-designated incurable condition. Without someone as stubborn as Audrey is, no one would ever find a cure. For someone as clever, working with her was dangerous. If she discovered Audrey's true identity, it would be a disaster. It seems she had overheard his words in class and tracked him here, but getting entangled with her would only lead to a quicker death. Audrey has quickly made it clear. He had no interest in being her partner, the piano mushroom. His heart jolted. Lucia continued, the ingredient you left unsaid, it also included the pinna mushroom, didn't it? She had noticed it once, something only he should have known. Experiments require a lot of money. I can help provide the materials, she offered. Audrey simply gestured for her to leave. Her offer was tempting but not worth risking his life. Lucia only smiled faintly. Take some time to think. I'm sure you'll change your mind. That made Audrey's all the more cautious. He had to watch his word from now on. The scene shifted. He returned to his dorm. Money was a problem, but if he could figure out the formula ratios himself, it would be manageable. First, he needed a way to earn. At that moment, Nai saw his distraction and swung a wooden staff at him. The staff whooshed past, startling Audrey's. As expected, Nai always noticed the slightest lapse in focus. Audrey has forced himself to concentrate. He would train first and think later. After much thought, he came up with a plan, asking his sister for money. Damn it, that's exactly the kind of trash thing the old Audrey's would do. In the original storyline, Audrey's indeed had this moment. Though it weighed on his conscience, he swore this would be the last time. Just then, he noticed a girl sitting by the fountain, Diana Arwen. She was a character who could easily kill him within the academy. Though they had been close as children, the Cromwell family's fall had driven them apart. With Audrey's reputation as scum, even striking a conversation might get him killed. Surrounded by danger at every corner, he had no choice but to rely on his sister this time, the imperial capital, Rodran. Luckily, he still retained some memories of the place or he would have been lost. When Audrey's entered the restaurant, his sister greeted him warmly, asking how he had been. He felt a pang of guilt. His sister, a noble lady, was working here to make ends meet. Amy looked puzzled. This wasn't something Audrey's would normally say. She shook her head. This isn't your fault. As an older brother, Audrey has found it nearly impossible to ask her for money, but his sister had already guessed his purpose. She handed him a pouch. Don't waste it this time. All right. As Audrey has reached out to take it, she noticed something missing. Brother, where's your ring? Hearing her question, Audrey quickly explained, claiming he must have misplaced the ring at home. But Amy knew her brother's nature. You sold it, didn't you? She snapped. Her voice trembled with fury. Do you even know what that ring meant? Faced with her anger, Audrey's lowered his head. I'm sorry. Amy shot to her feet, tears spilling down. Enough. I don't want to see you again. She turned and stormed off. Don't ever come to me again and don't bother paying me back. He hadn't expected the ring to matter so much to her. If he had known, he would never have sold it. It was the first time Audrey's had seen his sister so enraged. That hollow ache in his chest was unbearable. Damn it, I have to get that ring back. After leaving the military, he had lived alone for years. Back then, with no family left, his only companion had been the game. Now, he swore to himself he would protect his sister, and once he returned, he would accept Lucia's offer. After leaving the tavern, he officially formed a partnership with Lucia. The lazy genius continued to order him around. Between helping in her experiments and squeezing in his own training, Audrey has barely had a moment to breathe. Still, with her assistance, progress came faster. Yet somehow, it felt like he was the only one actually working, but she truly was a prodigy of alchemy. Her instincts were razor-sharp, often cutting straight to the heart of the problem. Though the partnership had begun for money, Audrias was glad he had agreed. With a reminder, this time he reduced the amount of margarota and added more Tadoth extract. A single drop of the mixed reagent fell into the base solution and the liquid inside the vial instantly reacted. /system stamina potion successfully created. Audrey has leapt up in excitement, startling Lucia. She nearly thought it had failed again. He stared blankly for a moment, hardly believing it. Success at last. For now, the potion trials were complete. Another notification appeared: /talent potion acquired. Evolution chance, 32%. Audrey has frowned. Not just beings, even traits could evolve. Did that mean anything could advance once it reached a certain threshold? But with only 32% chance, lower even than the vampires, it wasn't safe to attempt yet. He would wait. Lucia suggested they could submit the formula to the Potion Review Council. Then I'll leave that to you. Miss Lucia, Audrey has replied. She grinned. Since you've been taking advantage this whole time, I'll handle it myself for once. Audrey is froze, so she really had been slacking on purpose. Scene shift. Elsewhere, Angela remained frail. The evolution countdown still showed 14 days remaining. Her whole body felt like it was burning, but instinct told her this was a good sign. Soon after, the Academy's midterm exams arrived. Even on the train ride there, Audrey is crammed as much study as he could. So much had changed recently. Potion registration was left to Lucia, and he trusted she would handle it. Through dedicated training, both his magic and swordsmanship had advanced significantly. The only issue now, passing the midterms, failure meant expulsion. He also needed to check on Angela and craft a convincing excuse for her long coma. Meanwhile, classmates speculated about their team assignments. Groups were randomized. For prodigies like Diana, it didn't matter who they were paired with. For ordinary students, however, being placed with Audrey's was a nightmare worth praying against. Even Diana, when her gaze fell on Audrey's, felt a faint tremor in her chest. With the train's arrival, everyone disembarked at the Auckland training grounds. Teams were announced, each consisting of 3 night students, 1 mage, and an assistant instructor as captain. They would have 1 week to complete a mission. When Audrias saw his assigned team, he froze. You gotta be kidding me. Beyond him and Karen, the Academy had plenty of antagonists, and somehow 2 had landed in his group. The first was Cha-Cha Jeopardy, the very first enemy the player fought in the game. The second, the madwoman responsible for a mass-killing incident at the Academy, Vivian Balaka. Just as luck stuck with those 2 lunatics, was his fortune really as cursed as the trash character he inhabited? At that moment, one of the warriors called out, "I'm Kristoff, your teammate." His first words were a provocation. "So I hear you're a nobody mage who also dabbles in swordsmanship." Audrey is seated inwardly. Who the hell said mages can't wield swords? The awkward silence broke when Cha-Cha spoke up. "Forgive him. Knights aren't known for their social skills. Please don't take it to heart." Audrey has groaned internally, a zealot, a lunatic, and a third-rate knight. Soon the assistant instructor arrived, but to Audrey's despair, even the TA assigned to them was notorious. This had to be the worst lineup in game history. Put together, they didn't even make up 1 functioning brain. Could Audrias possibly survive this? The scene shifted as the group embarked on their assignment. Inside the carriage, the assistant instructor introduced himself. "I am Ivy Clare, overseer of Squad 9. Other than the fact that he was soon to become the youngest sword or a master in history, Audrey has knew nothing about him. Compared to his in-game portrayal, Ivy seemed even more of a rogue. His strength was undeniable, but Audrey has suspected his personality would be a liability in completing the mission. Ivy then produced the mission dossier and handed it around for everyone to review. The report detailed their task to investigate a village within Baron Balaric's territory. Rumors claimed the village's landlord had been murdered. 2 weeks earlier, an investigator had been dispatched, but he too had vanished. Their mission was to uncover the truth. At that moment, Vivian sneered at Audria's seaweed head. I heard you've been pretending to be a knight. A frail little mage trying horse stances? Hilarious. Audria's cursed inwardly. He wasn't about to take orders from a meat-gnawing lunatic with anger issues. Cha-Cha quickly stepped in. Calm down, everyone. Peace brings fortune. The scene shifted to evening as the group reached the Baron's domain. Staring up at the Grand Castle, Audrey has thought, for a Baron, this level of wealth is unusual. They were greeted by Baron Baleric himself, who explained the situation. The village landlord was his nephew, technically a baronet but without family. That was all the Baron offered. Suddenly, the butler interrupted, whispering something privately to his lord. Watching from a distance, Audrey has found their behavior suspicious. Were they hiding something? The Baron soon excused himself, citing illness, leaving the butler to handle arrangements. Ivy, however, declared that the mission was urgent. There will be no time wasted staying here. As they departed, Audrey has kept his eyes on the butler, noticing his unsettling gaze. Outside the castle, Ivy confronted him. Why did you insist the squad leave? I expect a proper answer. Audrey has explained that too much seemed wrong. The Baron had been unnaturally calm about his nephew's disappearance, and even more suspicious regarding the missing investigator and tax officer. After all, a month had passed since the investigator was sent, yet no word had returned. But the butler's behavior was the strangest of all. He had urged them to stay the night, claiming they wouldn't reach the village before dark. When they refused, his expression looked almost like disappointment at a failed plan. And during his exchange with the Baron, Audria's had noticed trembling muscles, quickened breathing, nervous gestures, all signs of people concealing the truth. Something was definitely wrong. The squad continued straight toward the village to begin their investigation. Yet as the carriage drew closer, Audria's felt a strange throb in his chest. His mana was restless, surging more violently the nearer they came. Something was happening in the village. Suddenly, the carriage jolted violently as its speed increased. Looking out, they saw the coachman lashing the horses wildly. The wagon was out of control. Ivy barked in order to prepare for impact, kicking the door open. His eyes widened at the sight ahead. Damn it, too late. Brace yourselves. The runaway carriage slammed through the village gates and only stopped to the central fountain. Crawling from the wreckage, they looked around. The villagers' movements were bizarre. This wasn't a dance. It was a ritual occult ceremony. Kristoff turned to Audria's, panic. What's happening to them? He was the team's only mage. Audria's felt it too. This wasn't a simple mana disturbance. Even his own hidden core was reacting. Damn, it's black magic. Suddenly, a child lunged at them like the undead, only to be struck down instantly by Vivian. She realized with alarm that the boy's strength was monstrous, far beyond that of a normal 6 or 7-year-old. Cha-Cha examined him and found his feet torn and bloody, as though he'd been jumping continuously for a full day. This is a curse, Audria's thought grimly. Could our mission really be tied to it? Kristoff frowned in confusion. The landlord disappeared a month ago. If these villagers have been dancing since then, they'd be dead by now. Audrey has nodded. Exactly. Unless someone has been keeping them alive, managing them somehow. Ivy scratched his head in irritation. This is turning into a major case. Audrey has thought carefully. In the original game, he wasn't supposed to die here. He would have stayed at the Baron's castle following the butler's advice. And in that single night, the Baron would have erased all evidence. But because the squad came straight to the village, everything had changed. The situation had grown far more dangerous. Audria's felt the mana saturating the air. It was almost identical to Karen's. To affect such a large area, there had to be some artifact amplifying the magic. Yet their information was too limited. They needed more clues. The scene shifted as they arrived at the village chief's house. Several corpses burned in eerie flames at the doorway. Ivy kicked the door open and the group entered in full alert. Inside, no living soul remained, only bodies strewn across the floor. Judging from their condition, they had died of exhaustion, not decay, as if their life force had been drained away. Kristoff then spotted a corpse clad in Imperial Investigation Bureau uniform. By the state of decomposition, it had been there at least a month. Audria's quickly warned Ivy, this is beyond our squad's ability. All signs point to a black mage behind it. He explained they specialize in feeding on human negativity, turning it into power. Ivy nodded, yes. If our deductions are right, the village chief must have interfered with their plans and was killed for it. Kristoff asked the burning corpses outside, are they part of the ritual too? Most likely. Audrey has replied, we need more evidence. The squad split up to search every room. Still, they found nothing, not even a village chief's body. Suddenly, Vivian noticed movement outside. The villagers were gathering, every last one of them converging on the house. Audrey is realized instantly, the black mage is making his move. He waited until we entered the building to trap us. He anticipated everything. We have to retreat. Ivy barked the order to withdraw, sending Cha-Cha to find an escape route. But as Cha-Cha reached the staircase, he froze. The villagers surged inside like ravenous corpses. They were surrounded. Kristoff charged forward, slamming into the horde with his body. You and Vivian guard the mage. I'll take the front. His words were cut short as one villager's body exploded. The blast hurled Kristoff several meters back, knocking him unconscious instantly. The sight triggered a memory in Audrius, the last battle of his former life. A deafening roar filled his ears. Darkness claimed him and he collapsed into unconsciousness. Instructor Ivy also sensed danger. Without hesitation, she hoisted Audrey as onto her shoulder and ordered Vivian to smash open a window for escape. Vivian shattered the frame and the group leapt out together, narrowly escaping the encirclement. Damn it! Of the 5 squad members, 2 were already unconscious, yet the villagers showed no signs of stopping. Audrius soon regained consciousness and immediately cast a delay spell. As the villagers slowed, he followed up with an earthen spell to hinder them further. Ivy called out, that won't hold them. Track the source of the mana instead. He's recklessly channeling his power. At once, Audrey has activated magical detection, following the flow of energy through the villagers' bodies. A surge of mana was leaking from one of the houses, his senses expanding outward. He locked onto the source and muttered coldly, found you. Ivy accelerated and dashed toward the location, but her speed was too great. In an instant, she vanished from sight, leaving the others behind. By the time the squad reached the spot, their every move was already under the black mage's watchful eye. Ivy kicked the door open and stepped inside, finding clear signs of recent activity. They had indeed come to the right place. Suddenly, a magical barrier flared up, separating Ivy from the rest of the squad. Audrey's face darkened. Damn, it's a trap. At that moment, Ivy heard a familiar voice. She spun around and there stood her sister. Outside the barrier, Audrey has struggled to dispel it, but the opposing mana was far beyond his reach. Damn it, a hollow voice echoed in his ears. Look at you, so pitiful, like a moth to the flame. Audrius raised his head to see a massive formation spanning the entire village. Terror gripped him. How can he command so much mana? The voice returned, do not despair. This is the will of God. Surrender to Sloth. The name struck Audrey as like a thunderclap. Sloth? Why now of all times? In the game Packard, one of its core elements was the 7 deadly sins. These sins, separated from the revelation itself, have been scattered across the world. Gather them all and the final boss could be summoned, the most critical element of the story. Yet here, in a remote side quest village never even mentioned in the main storyline, Sloth had appeared. Audrius knew he could not handle this alone. He needed to regroup with the others. With a sliding maneuver, he burst through the villagers' ranks, breaking free. Elsewhere, Vivian had gone berserk, striking friend and foe alike, clearly trapped in a torturous illusion. Cha-Cha, however, stood at a distance, observing coldly, unmoved. What's happening to her? Audrius demanded. Cha-Cha replied flatly, though even he seemed uncertain. It was the first time he had seen Vivian like this. But Audrius knew he wasn't telling the full truth. Fanatics were never trustworthy. To abandon a comrade injured while protecting others, disgraceful. If Cha-Cha wanted to put on a performance, Audrius would play his part as well. He informed him bluntly, this is a trap. Captain Ivy is already caught in it. Just then, the hollow voice rang out again. Even Cha-Cha stiffened in shock. The black mage was close, likely hiding near Ivy. Cha-Cha seized the excuse, claiming concern for the instructor, and bolted. Audrius saw through his intent, but at least it was better than betrayal. The real problem was Vivian. Her frenzy was clearly triggered by black magic, and if he made one wrong move, he too would be dragged down with her. At that moment, 2 villagers lunged from behind. Audrey's heart tightened. Vivian could never dodge in time. Yet her speed defied reason. With a swift turn, her blade pierced straight through the attackers, not only evading but countering. What a waste. I hadn't wanted to spend materials this way. Corpses aren't cheap to come by. Audrey has sighed inwardly. The black mage appeared at his back sneering. What will you do now? The only one still sane has already fled, but I never counted on him anyway. He studied Audrey's composure, astonished. To remain calm in such peril, I don't know where your courage comes from. Very well, I shall grant you a trial. In an instant, Audreus felt himself falling into an abyss. Damn, I let my guard down. When he opened his eyes, he was inside an illusion. His hands slowly dissolving. His body followed suit. Am I gonna die here? Suddenly, his vision cleared. He was back on the battlefield as if waking from a nightmare. Explosions thundered all around. He grabbed his rifle and ran, head splitting with pain, then he froze. Amid the smoke and flames, a lone figure stood still. Upon seeing him, the man shouted hoarsely, "Run!" It was his comrade Chun Hao barely clinging to life. Yet Chun Hao's face blurred, merging with that of Audrey as his father. His father pressed the Cromwell family ring into his hand. With this, you were the head of House Cromwell. Wrongly condemned by the Empire, his father's fall had left Audrey's and his sister orphans. Take care of your sister. Live happily together. The figure faded into nothingness. Outside, the masked black mage sensed something was wrong. By the time he reacted, it was too late. An arm burst through, shattering the curse. The illusion fractured like glass. You damn wretch, the masked man roared. Impossible. Someone broke my curse of sloth? Gao Chun and Audreus Cromwell had fully synchronized. His combat instincts surged awake. So the curse of sloth was merely a trick to exploit hidden fears, or rather the caster was simply too weak. Furious, the black mage hurled a spear of pure darkness. Audreus sidestepped effortlessly, the strike grazing past. His unique constitution rendered the barrier nearly useless against him. Snarling, the mage unleashed a flurry of attacks, all deftly evaded. He's not that strong, but without necromancy, he's troublesome to deal with. Audrey is calculated quickly. He dashed into a deserted alley preparing forbidden arts. The masked man narrowed his eyes, suspicious. You'll know soon enough, Audrey is muttered, beginning a necromantic summon. System prompt, detected 23 corpses nearby, mana insufficient, maximum summon, 9 skeletons. 9 skeletons clawed their way from the ground. The mage faltered. A necromancer? Has the church already caught on to us? Audreus noted the misunderstanding and chose to exploit it. By the church's order, he declared coldly, I reclaim the fragment of sloth. The mage scoffed and lunged again. The skeleton soldiers clashed with him but were crushed within moments. Audreus raised an earth shield to block the assault. Using the cover, he secretly summoned Naya. So that's your trick? The mage sneered. Naya seized a long sword, unleashing a burst of sword aura that shattered the wall and obliterated the dark spear. The mage recoiled in shock. A skeleton broke my spear of darkness. No longer holding back, he unveiled the fragment of sloth in his hand. Audreus's chest tightened. That artifact spelled true danger. At that moment, a massive black hand struck Nia's skeleton backward. The magic coalesced into a dark tome. This was the fragment of sloth. With the artifact's power, the masked mage's strength surged. Countless black hands erupted from the earth, overturning the battle in an instant. To think I must expend my hard-won power of sloth on the likes of you. You shall pay with your life for ruining my plans. Though Audreus could endure the speed of the attacks, closing in for a killing blow was impossible. Only a skeleton had the swiftness to complete the task. Suddenly, the masked mage accelerated, focusing most of his strikes on Audreus. At that moment, a blind spot appeared in his vision. Audreus flashed behind Nea. He intercepted the blow meant for the skeleton. As the smoke cleared, Audreus was still standing tall. You destroyed my skeleton, the one I struggled so hard to claim. Audreus roared. The masked mage smirked. How unfortunate. Then I'll send you to join it. Several massive hands lunged at him, but Audreus showed no fear. For Ni had already crept behind the enemy. The mage realized too late. A flash of sword light. Victory was sealed. Ni's strike cleaved the masked man down, ending him. To Audrey's shock, the black mage had been Baron Barolic's steward. If so, the Baron himself was likely involved. Audrey is stooped to pick up the fallen fragment of sloth. System prompt, Apocalypse Chapter 7, Sloth. Mana recovery rate plus 320%. Audrey is frowned. He could not keep such a thing on his person. Discovery would be disastrous. He turned toward Naya, deciding to store the fragment in the summoning space until it could be studied safely. Vivian remained bound within the curse of sloth, puzzling Audrius. The caster was dead. The spell should have ended. Still, if that madwoman stayed trapped forever, it would be no loss. But returning alone would raise suspicion. The Academy might demand answers or worse, investigate him. He had to try breaking the illusion. The moment he touched the magic, he was pulled inside. Within, he found a young Vivian. His sudden appearance terrified her. Who would have thought the girl had once been so timid? Audrius sat upon a chair, speaking, though in the dreamscape she could not see him. She trembled with anxiety. To ease her fear, he told her he was a spirit sent from the heavens. Hearing this, she gradually calmed. Yet Audrey has faltered. To enter was one thing, but what was he doing here? Trapped as she was, he could only shatter the illusion. Very well, let me witness her past. The first scene unfolded. Vivian was struck across the face by a woman's hand. From a maid's whisper, he learned the woman was Count Belokin's second wife. Audrius had not expected Vivian to have such a background. She belonged to the prestigious Belokin family, renowned masters of swordsmanship whose patriarch longed for a son to inherit the name. But when Vivian's mother could not bear a male heir, tragedy began. Even her own mother despised her, coldly declaring she should never have been born. Once her mother abandoned her, there was no one left in the family willing to protect her. Isolation and abuse planted the seed of madness within her. As time passed, hysteria would consume the girl's mind. In the game story, one day, she snapped completely and slaughtered all the third-year teachers, earning the title of Madwoman at the Academy. Audrius was stunned that such a young girl had endured so much. Though he could not change her past, perhaps he could help her overcome it. When she heard the spirit was here to help her, Vivian's tears spilled over. "Are you truly here to help me?" she sobbed. Watching her cry, Audrius awkwardly comforted her. "Don't cry," he murmured, for he had no idea how to deal with children. He encouraged her, telling her she was born with remarkable talent in swordsmanship, though no one around her realized it. Vivian had never once held a sword, for she had always been beaten and scolded. Audrey has assured her that spirits could see many things, urging her to trust him. "Let me teach you swordsmanship, but you must promise never to reveal this secret to anyone." From then on, he taught her methods to face hardship and the essentials of training. Her natural gift for the sword was so evident that even instructors were impressed. She clung to her blade so tightly that she would not part with it even in her sleep. A month passed. Vivian timidly called out, "Spirit, I came as promised. Will you guide my swordsmanship again today?" She had grown stronger, no longer the timid child she once was. "Very well, little one. Let's begin." Hearing his voice, Vivian beamed with joy. Another month slipped by with Gao Qin's combat talent flowing through him. Audrey has gave her as much guidance as he could, but Vivian was a true prodigy. Who would have believed that after just 2 months of practice, a girl so young could wield such techniques? When training ended, she seemed downcast. Audrey is asked gently, "What's wrong? Was today's practice not good enough?" She shook her head. "Even if the instructors praise me, I can never see the spirit himself." Audrey froze, unsure how to respond and try to brush it off, but she was far too perceptive. "Am I still not good enough? No matter how hard I try, I can't be acknowledged. Does effort truly mean nothing?" she whispered. At that moment, Count Belokin himself appeared. Having witnessed Vivian's growth, he asked her to demonstrate the sword forms once more. Flustered, Vivian stammered, "And me?" "Truly." Summoning her courage, she raised her sword and repeated the training movements. When she finished, she was visibly nervous. This time, her father did not scold her. Instead, he gave rare praise. "Your swordsmanship is excellent. You are a true prodigy." This was the very first time Vivian had ever been acknowledged by her father. She could hardly believe what she was hearing. Audrius thought to himself that his own life too was beginning to feel like a surreal dream. At that moment, he sensed the curse dissipating as a crack split open in the space around them. Before his eyes, Vivian's figure grew into her present form. "Though I wish I could remain with you," she whispered, "it's time to wake." She had already understood. She thanked Audrius for showing her the path, vowing to follow it from now on. Audrey has stepped forward and clasped her hand. "Let us remember this promise. Keep this memory close to your heart." The dream shattered like glass. It was time to say goodbye to the past. "Vivian, I believe you'll succeed just as you did within this dream." When the illusion collapsed, Instructor Ivy rejoined them. It became clear that Baron Borloric was the mastermind behind the village incident. Ivy coldly ordered Audrias to sever the steward's head. She then led the team back to the Baron's estate, her killing intent palpable. With Christopher dead and Zosha missing, her fury was only natural. Back at the castle, guards barred their way until Avi dropped one with a single blow. I am an instructor of the Rodran Academy's Night Division. Stand in our way again and every soul in this castle will be executed for treason, she roared. She flung the steward's severed head to the ground. His fate will be yours. The guards blanched, terrified that she might massacre them all. Moments later, Avi kicked open the Baron's chamber doors. What they saw next stunned everyone present. The Baron, seeing them, knew instantly the steward had failed. This is my son, Ed, he said in anguish. He should have died months ago from illness. I sought every cure I could. In the end, a group of rogue men found me. I paid any price to save my son, never imagining it would leave him in such misery. He fell to his knees in despair. Audrey has realized that once the Baron had turned to black magic. Evie, however, had no patience for his sob story. She stormed forward and seized him. And how will you answer for the dead? She snarled, hurling him across the room. She then ordered the guards to summon the Imperial Inquisition and drag away the abomination. In that moment, Audrias quietly gathered his magic. Striking unseen, he slew the twisted creature outright. The Baron collapsed, weeping over his son's corpse. Bookworm, who told you to act on your own? Ibi shouted. Audrias replied calmly, creatures spawned by black magic must be destroyed immediately. If the Baron still controlled him, all of us would have been in danger. The Baron was taken away and chained by the Imperial investigators. Back at the Academy, Audrias and Vivian were summoned to testify, confirming the Baron's ties to a black sorcerer. They gave a full account of the mission before being dismissed. Audrias reflected that Baron Borloric would face a grim fate, yet perhaps the man should thank him. Had Audrey has not slain the boy, the child would have become nothing more than a deranged test subject for sorcerers enduring a true hell. Ending it had been mercy. Vivian interrupted softly. Spirit, you foresaw this, didn't you? You killed him because you knew surviving would mean greater suffering. Audrias nearly betrayed himself, then forced a blank expression. Why do you call me Spirit? Vivian gazed at him. Because your voices are exactly the same. At that moment, Lucia interjected. Instructor AV's squad has destroyed the Black Mage. Full marks on the mission and an Imperial commendation besides. You're famous now, but Audrey has longed only for a quiet life. Fame was nothing but a burden. At the mention of prize money, Lucia's eyes sparkled, the little glutton leaping up. You're treating me to dinner. Audrey has quickly reminded her the reward wasn't his alone. Only then did she notice there were others present. He introduced them. This is Vivian Belcar, a third-year student of the Night Academy. Lucia grinned. Doesn't matter. You got money now. Use it for a feast. Let's celebrate our potion success. See you at the Mage Tower tomorrow. The next morning, Audrey is staggered under the weight of a sleeping girl on his back, trudging toward the tower. He cursed inwardly. We agreed not to be late, and I trusted her words. Lucia still slumbered. It was her condition without medication. She would one day never wake again. Soon they reached the tower's entrance, where an attendant awaited them. Inside, the Mage Tower was a labyrinth of warped spaces, its design echoing steampunk machinery. Along the way, Lucia suddenly asked about his relationship with Vivian. Audrey is muttered inwardly. Teammates, I guess, why is she asking such strange questions? A sharp voice cut them off. Two arrogant fools. Not even a hint of tension. Audrey is froze. That voice, a figure descended like an eagle from the skies. That aura of sanctity could belong to none other than Bartlewin, Tower Master of Rodran. He surveyed them with cold eyes, his son beside him wearing the same stubborn expression. Bartlewin was not only the head of House Arwen, but also the current lord of the Mage Tower. For the Tower Master himself to appear, it could mean nothing good. His mocking words were a blatant provocation. Audrey is seethed. Bartlewin sneered. So Hollington raised quite the daughter. His gaze lingered on Lucia. From now on, I'll be in charge of this matter, he declared, unleashing a surge of power, spatial teleportation magic. The construction of such a spell was immensely difficult. In the game's lore, only a handful of characters had ever mastered it. In a blink, they arrived at the audit hall where examiners paled at the Tower Master's sudden appearance. Bartlewin asked for details, learning the efficacy check was complete and only questions of production remained. He stepped forward and lifted a vial of potion, intending to taste it himself. As he sipped, he muttered, "Leaves of maher, extract of tato tree, fruit of zaz, pinna mushrooms, missing only sulpi's essence and bark of the madarota tree." Then he looked at Lucia. "I've heard the rumors, but I didn't expect someone so young to produce this." He nodded, granting them passage, but his eyes hardened. "And why is the little Cromwell brat here?" Audria's heart sank. The old fox clearly doubted him. A formula written on paper wasn't enough proof of his contribution. Suspicion gleamed in the Tower Master's gaze. Lucia stepped in. Without him, this potion would never exist. Most of the work was his. "I only offered small assistance." Bardowen still looked unconvinced. "Very well. Show me your true ability." With a snap of his fingers, they were teleported to the potion laboratory. Demonstration is proof enough. Audrias approached the intricate apparatus, carefully weighing his options. Using unfamiliar equipment would invite failure, so he chose the tools he had mastered. 5 minutes later, Bardowen tasted the potion again, acknowledging Audria's skill. Yet he pressed further, "Why add sulpi's extract?" Audrey is answered evenly to neutralize side effects and boost efficiency. Most failures occur when a mixture produces instability. The Tower Master's expression darkened. He tore away the blindfold from his eyes. "It's been years since I last saw you, but the boy I remember can never achieve this. Who are you really?" His gaze was razor-sharp, piercing straight into the soul. The others looked on in bewilderment. Audrias, however, had anticipated this. In the game, Bardowen was always meticulous and suspicious. Not even eagle eyes could reveal his true secret. Audrias sneered, "Are you jesting, Lord Arwen? I am Audrias Cromwell, the very worm you mocked so often back then." Bartlewin faltered, then allowed himself a thin smile. "So that's it. The little brat has grown into someone interesting, hasn't he?" Then came the wager. If Audrias Cromwell could brew a brand new potion within the year, all of House Cromwell's debts would be erased and one additional wish granted. But if he failed, he would be expelled from Roderick Academy. It was clear the man still wanted to help House Cromwell. Audrias accepted the bet without hesitation. As the heir of his fallen house, there was no way he could refuse. "So arrogant, but can you actually do it?" Watching Audrey's growth, the man saw the shadow of an old friend. He was eager, longing to witness a miracle again. "Then I'll wish you success." Elsewhere, as the countdown ended, the vampire's body finally stirred. She felt the surge of power within and was baffled. With a mere flick of her hand, the cage that once held her shattered to pieces, power she had never possessed before. The only reason must have been that man's oath. She found Audrias fascinating. What kind of power does he really have? "Very well. Let's see if I can kill you myself, Audrias." With the potion matter settled, Audrias no longer had to worry about money. Now he had to focus on training. The problem lay with the leaf of sloth. No matter how he thought, he couldn't find a way to benefit from it. Better to exchange it for something useful now. Looks like it was time to make use of Karen. With exams over, he should report back. On the way to Karen's residence, Audrias felt uneasy. Someone was tailing him. Yet scanning the streets revealed nothing. Was an illusion, but instincts were rarely wrong. Indeed, someone's eyes were fixed on him. Angela smirked, "Found you." The scene shifted. Audrias was back in Karen's study. His recent exploits had already become the Academy's hottest topic. Karen stared at the potion in disbelief. "This? Audrias made this? So you've been hiding your secret work? Acting like a model student now." Audrey has shrugged. "It was all Lucia's effort. I just took advantage of her." Karen's face darkened. He walked to the bookshelf and pulled a hidden lever. He looked gloomy, a narrow-minded man, one to hold grudges over the smallest slight. Today was not the time to push him. Otherwise, a beating might follow. "Let's check on a vampire." They descended into the basement. Karen froze at the sight. The laboratory was a wreck, utterly destroyed. He could hardly believe it. To Audrias, it only meant one thing: the vampire had successfully evolved. Karen grabbed the chains, furious. "Damn it, what did you do to Angela's bindings?" "Audrey has feigned innocence. I value my life. I'd never approached that monster." Yet the truth was he had done everything. Watching Karen's rage, Audrias sneered inwardly. Sergei right, Karen's roar shook the basement raw and anguished. Yet the sound only delighted Audrias. The scene cut again. Audrias walked alone down the street. It was already late. The leaf of sloth would have to wait. Suddenly, a strand of hair drifted onto his head. Audria's backslash. His heart jolted. Damn it, she's been waiting for me here? Angela raised his chin with a sharp fingertip. What exactly happened? What method did you use? Audria's demanded. Oh, are you saying I didn't keep my promise to release you? You should know the price of defying a family oath. Of course, as a vampire, I know it better than anyone. She smiled yet pressed further. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't break free on my own, so I used another method. Her words were laced with bait. Then she caught a scent from him, something unique. Her eyes widened. The aura was almost sinful. Joy spread across her face. So that's it. Everything makes sense now. Things were getting far more interesting. Before he could react, she seized his throat and slammed him against a tree. Audrey has longed to confirm her words, but with too many eyes around, he had to endure. We'll meet again, and the power you gave me, I'll make full use of it, but I don't like owing debts. So here's a gift. Don't worry. It'll only hurt for a moment. After all, you might just be my destined mate. Meanwhile, another piece of news exploded across the academy. A first-year student, Lucia, had successfully created a healing potion. For freshmen, it was unheard of, but what shook everyone most was that the one behind it was Audrey's. When Diana first heard, she thought it was a joke. After all, in everyone's eyes, he was a fallen heir, a complainer mocked as the king of worms. Could trash really turn into genius? Diana resolved to see for herself. The scene shifted again. Lucia eyed Audrey's bundled-up appearance confused. He explained it was due to a cold. She urged him to rest in the dorm, but he insisted he needed enough credits to graduate. He could not let anyone see the mark on his neck. Talk of fated partners and unique scents left him completely puzzled. Ever since Angela bit him, she vanished, leaving him burning with heat. In class, the professor noticed his body wrapped tightly. Remembering how Audrey's potion had passed the Tower of Mages trial, the professor grew bitter, especially since his name wasn't on the paper. If you're sick, then go rest in your dorm. Audria's immediately rose. He truly couldn't endure any longer. But just as he left, the professor called out, you can always consult me, your herbology professor. Were you just too shy? Audrey sneered inwardly. This man contributed nothing yet still want to share. Time to teach him what respect means. Audrey had always been grateful for the professor's advice, especially regarding soul skin extract and the martyroda hide. As he said, if I add those things, what I'm making isn't a potion, it's soup. But this soup is just too delicious. His words stunned the class. Publicly mocked, the professor's face flushed with rage. Is this how you treat your teacher? Audrey has ignored him and walked straight out. Despicable man, you mocked me relentlessly before, and now you want to play tricks again? Just then, a clear voice cut through the tension. It was Lucia. She stepped forward. As his co-creator, may I speak on his behalf? In this class, we learned the basics of potion making. I simply put that knowledge into practice. When we can reach conclusions on our own without anyone else's help, that's what truly matters. Isn't that what mages are supposed to do, or are you just chasing hollow credit? Professor Bourbon was left speechless, face turning purple. Lucia's sharp tongue had sliced him apart. At last, the teacher waved his hand, allowing Audrius to leave. Audrius was caught off guard. He never expected Lucia to stand up for him. He thought being tied to her meant an early death, but still, thank you, Lucia, he whispered. Meanwhile, news from the academy reached the royal court. Sinclair Crusoe, a master of sword aura and the Duke holding every academy roster in hand, took notice. The Empire always recruited talents. He learned that Elbier's daughter had developed a new potion, one close to being commercialized. Staring at the vial in his hand, Sinclair muttered, if she can achieve this as a first year, she'll be courted by countless factions after graduation. He tilted back the potion and drank. In an instant, 80% of his stamina returned. His eyes widened in shock. This was several times more effective than anything on the market without side effects. If mass-produced, it would revolutionize the field. The student must be watched closely. She's a rare talent, yet his assistant reminded him. The potion was co-created. When Sinclair read the other name, his eyes narrowed. The son of Cain Cromwell? Could he also have the gift of potion making? The assistant shook his head. Investigations suggest Audrius doesn't have that skill. Rumors say he just used Lucia. Then why is his name there at all? And why? When the two families share no ties, Sinclair's voice hardened. Find out their connection. If he truly has talent, the Empire will recruit him. Elsewhere, within the imperial palace itself, even the emperor had heard Audrey's name and he was thrilled. Events were becoming more and more entertaining. After all, the Cromwell family's downfall was his handiwork. Let me see then, how different are you from your father, Audrey is? The scene shifted. Audrias had already swung his sword 9,999 times. With the final strike, his tally reached 10,000. He collapsed to the ground in exhaustion. Simple swings they were, but the toll was monstrous. Without recovery potions, it would have been impossible. Regeneration potions repaired muscle. Recovery potions erased fatigue, and stamina-boosting tonics pushed him further. Only with these could he maintain his infinite training plan. It was a gamble, but one he had won. He hesitated for a long time before pressing evolution, telling himself even if he lost, the damage would be minimal. Yet the outcome left him so satisfied he forgot every past worry. Not only had the number of potions he could create skyrocketed, but his success rate and speed had improved as well. With the right conditions in place, Audrias only needed a usable corpse and tools to secure his combat power. But with Karen absent, he couldn't yet sell the Leaf of Sloth. Karen had been rushing out constantly. Could the dark mages be plotting something? The next day, Audrias stepped into the classroom only to find it empty. Soon, he spotted a notice pinned to the board. Today's class would be held outdoors and tablets were acquired. Damn Bourbon, shameless bastard. He knew Audrias didn't own a tablet, yet still set the trap. A professor scheming against his own student. Audrias hurried to the designated location. There, every student was busy. It looked exactly like an exam. Bourbon greeted him with a sneer. Late again, Audrias, I suppose your research keeps you very busy. The man was like a ghost that refused to leave. Before Audrias could respond, Lucia yanked him aside. She revealed the task. Bourbon claimed to have discovered an awakening potion and ordered the students to analyze it. Audrey has frowned. If Bourbon had already made the potion, why have them analyze it? Was he just showing off? Soon, Bourbon stepped up to him. If it's you, identifying the ingredients and ratios should be simple. It was provocation, pure and clear. If you're no genius, today you'll be exposed. I'll tear off your mask. Audrey is the so-called rising star of potions. You're nothing but a parasite on Lucia's achievements. Hours passed as Audrey has worked through the analysis. For hours later, the results came in and Bourbon's face went pale with shock. Lucia finished in 1 hour 22 minutes and 16 seconds. Audrey's took 2 hours 4 minutes and 33 seconds. The proctor confirmed on the spot. There was no cheating. The entire class was stunned. Audrey truly did have talent in potion making. Lucia teased with a grin, not bad, Seaweed Senior. Just then, a booming voice cut through the room. A heavy-set student stormed toward Bourbon. Why did you claim that potion was yours? I was the one who made it. Bourbon's face twisted, cold sweat breaking out as he was confronted in public. Whispers spread among the students. None could believe a professor would stoop this low, but to Audrias and Lucia, if it was Bourbon, then it was almost certainly true. Audrias spoke up, Professor, I have a question about the potion's components. Bourbon waved him off. Now is not the time. Audrey smirked. Why not just prove right here and now that you didn't plagiarize? Bourbon's expression darkened. Damn it, Grav, the fat student snapped his fingers. Exactly like in the tower trials. If it's truly your work, explaining the materials should be effortless, or do you lack confidence? Bourbon forced himself to stay calm, but professors of Rodran Academy were not so easily fooled. Audrey suddenly asked why he had replaced Africa Sun Gold with Heitman Leaf. Bowman broke into a cold sweat rushing to meet the publishing deadline. He hadn't even verified the details. Seeing him hesitate, the chubby student cut in, obviously, because the leaf is cheaper. Since this is your research, how could you not know that? Audrey through in several random questions about proportions and Bourbon stammered through them. Finally came the last strike. Why replace papina powder with a more expensive Dowso beetle? Bourbon froze while whispers spread across the hall. Could be true. He had claimed his student's work as his own. His mind went blank, buzzing like a struck bell. Scrambling for words, he blurted, papina powder causes hallucinations. Even if it costs more, I had to use the beetle, but Grove countered coldly. That's not the reason. When papina powder is heated long enough to brew a potion, it mutates and causes severe stomach pain. Bourbon refused to back down, insisting it was the hallucinogenic effect. Grove recalled how Bourbon once warned him about side effects, but never mentioned hallucinations. Then explain this answer, Grove pressed. Bobin realized he had just fallen into his own trap. Even the slowest student now understood, and the room erupted with accusations. He had stolen his students' research, disgracing the title of professor. Enraged, Bobin shouted back, claiming they had all conspired against him and that he would report them instead. But he still hadn't realized the situation. He was finished. Audrey has calmly pulled out a black card. If you dare, let Earl Bard arrange a place for you to explain yourself. Only Lucia knew it was just a regular shopping cart, but Bobin would definitely take the bait. Sure enough, fear consumed him, his legs trembling violently. In the next second, he collapsed onto the floor. Bart watched everything, his eyes narrowing. A man who dared such acts must pay the price. So bold, to use my name, Bart muttered coldly. Yet when he thought of Audrey's research, a spark of excitement lit his eyes. If the boy understood the essence of awakening potions, he might discover a new formula by year's end. Bart couldn't help but anticipate how far Audrey's would go. After all, he was Kane's son. The scene shifted. Audrey's kept his promise and took Lucia out for a meal. She never expected it to be in the academy's cafeteria. You cheapskate, she scoffed. She reached straight for the food. The next second, she yelped in pain from the heat. Audrey chuckled. Don't tell me a rich girl like you doesn't know how to eat barbecue. Watch me. He demonstrated. Pick it up from the back, dip it in sauce, then take a bite. Lucia stared at the meat, realizing she had never eaten cafeteria food before. On the side, Vivian's jealousy was already spilling over. She looked straight at Audrey's and declared, I want one too. Audrey's froze as Vivian pointed at Lucia's meat skewer, demanding the same barbecue made by him. Was this really the same Vivian once called a lunatic? Audrey's thought to himself. It seemed he had altered her path, but perhaps that wasn't a bad thing. Soon after they left the cafeteria, Lucius suggested he buy a tablet, but Audrey's had spent all his money on training. He had very little left. Vivian, meanwhile, kept replaying the moment in her head. The elf gentleman actually gave me meat with his own hands. When she heard he was short on money, she offered to give him the rest of her bonus. Cold sweat ran down Audrey's back. Why would I take your money? And seriously, why you keep calling me elf gentleman? After parting ways with them, his mind turned back to the problem of the sloth leaf. He had to solve it quickly. His power was still far too weak. If he ran into something as strong as a vampire again, he wouldn't even have the chance to fight back. At that moment, someone appeared before him. It was Karen. He had finally returned. Audrey's bowed respectfully, and Karen told him to come to his lab at noon the next day. His mood seemed much better after his trip. For Audrey's, his timing couldn't have been better. The scene shifted to the next day. He needed a proper weapon to prepare for his next plan. As for the sloth leaf, Karen had always believed that everything Audrey's possessed belonged to him, so he likely wouldn't try to snatch it outright. Just then, a voice interrupted him. He turned and saw Diana. She was holding a long sword in her arms, staring at him curiously. Audrey has bowed, politely explaining he was here to choose a weapon. She frowned in surprise. A mage needing a sword? Audrey has smiled. A sword for self-defense isn't a bad idea. He noticed a box she carried, and Diana explained it was a gift from her brother. She was referring to Carlos Arvin, the eldest son of the Arvin family. He had left home early to become a warrior, and they had once gotten along well. But Carlos had died before the game story began, mentioned only briefly in the main plot. Audrey is remembered. He died during the Academy's year-end event. Azal had fled Baron Baloric's lands, joined a cult, and launched an attack. So who was Carlos who attended that year-end event? Audrey is asked. Diana gave a slow nod. If only we could meet again. I miss those times, she whispered. Looking at Audrey's now, Diana was certain. He had undergone a tremendous transformation. She wanted to ask what had changed him, but didn't know how. Instead, she began speaking to herself, leaving Audrey as completely puzzled. When Audrey is asked if she needed something, Diana flinched and quickly said no. He took his leave, and though she debated whether to speak up, his figure was already fading away. By the time she gathered the courage, Audrey's was gone, leaving her speechless. At that moment, Audrey's was on his way to Karen. The attack was still some time away. He would think of countermeasures later. That night, Karen explained he had searched the continent but found no samples like Angela's, so he planned to travel again. After all, such things might be useful at the weekend gathering. Audrey's knew this was the turning point. If Karen suddenly decided to keep it all to himself, his plan would collapse. He stopped Karen saying he had something important to discuss. But to Karen, he was just a small fry not worth paying attention to. Then Audrey slowly said, I picked up the Apocalypse Codex. Time froze. Karen's expression grew conflicted and excited, though he masked it carefully. Don't spout nonsense. That's not something a man like you could obtain, he snapped. Audrey's feigned panic summoning his storage. This isn't something I can handle. Karen's heart leapt into his throat. Audrey's reached inside and drew out the sloth leaf. Karen's eyes widened. It was the legendary fragment of the Apocalypse Codex. Audrey's offered it up with both hands, but Karen didn't move. Instead, he swallowed hard and waved. Keep it yourself. He added, it's too dangerous to carry. Better to bring it to the church. We could trade it for whatever we want. Just as Audrey's expected, Karen always valued his own life above all else. There was no way he wouldn't covet it. In the end, he told Audrey's to join him at the weekend gathering. 2 days later, Audrey's stood at the eastern edge of the city, a forbidden zone for humans. Karen was handled, but the gathering was the real problem. It was full of unreasonable fanatics. He would have to negotiate while staying alive. From Karen's look, Audrey's knew he was scheming, planning to trade the sloth leaf for something to fuel his growth no matter the cost. In Karen's mind, the leaf was already his. He let Audrey's carry it only so he could use him as a shield when the time came. Suddenly, the carriage jolted violently, then it ground to a halt. Through his skeleton soldiers, Karen saw a man forcefully stop the horses, then pulled back his cloak as he approached. Heading to the gathering, mind giving me a ride? The man asked. Audrey's froze when he saw his face. It was him. Karen dared not refuse, for the man was Saron, one of the 10 strongest on the Yidea continent. A seeker of truth who defied every taboo, known as the demon of pursuing truth. Audrey's heart sank. Their secret, bringing the sloth leaf to the gathering, was already exposed. Karen looked miserable, and then Siren's casual words made him jump. That look on your face, are you displeased with me joining the gathering? Karen scrambled to deny it. His panic made Serwan burst into laughter. Relax. I'm not here to steal your toy. I'm just going to the gathering. Audrey sighed inwardly. He had known Serwan was mad, but not this mad. Then Siren's gaze fell on him. And you? What's your name? With Karen's nod, Audrey slowly replied, Audrey is Cromwell. Siren's face shifted instantly. Another Cromwell, he exclaimed. Audrey's heart tightened. Why another? Did the Cromwell family hide some secret? Serwan sneered at his calm look. Clearly, you don't know a thing. He clapped Audrey's on the shoulder and whispered, here's my advice, struggle as much as you can. Karen's face darkened, his expression warning Audrey's. Now was not the time to ask questions. Audrey's wondered what exactly was Karen hiding. At that moment, a strange presence appeared in the distance. When Karen probed with his mind, a mass of liquid rose slowly, chuckling with a grotesque JGG. Audrey has sneered, stop hiding, dragon. Speak plainly. How rude of me, dragon replied. As the carriage halted, Karen's lips curled into a sinister smile, clearly scheming something. Dragon froze at the sight of Saron. He hadn't expected him to appear and dared not make a move. His plan for the sloth leaf had to be shelved for now. Soon they reached the gathering site. Marasa signaled and guided them toward the church. Suddenly, Soren sensed several unusual auras. Plenty of rats hiding around here, he said with a grin. Karen and Draghen stiffened. Yes. Only greed that reckless could belong to black mages. But even they hadn't expected such fools to act with Saron present. A sorcerer in the woods struck first. Saron scoffed. 2 vines? Pathetic. Let's see how many of you there are. His aura exploded outward, magical perception sweeping across several miles in an instant. Every core was laid bare, even Audrey's was exposed. There you are, children. I found you, Saron said with a feral smile. His eyes gleamed like a beast spotting prey. The next instant, he vanished. The black mages tried to flee, but when they turned, Serwan was already behind them. The game ends here. A surge of magic burst forth. A devil's cloud formed above the forest, its tremors shaking even the distant church. Moments later, the gates of the gathering creaked open. Sarwan strolled inside, casually greeting Morosa. The crowd was stunned. This monster had come himself. He chuckled. Don't sound so harsh. Thanks to me. The sloth leaf wasn't stolen by petty thieves. Then he motioned for Audrey to open the bag. Severed heads tumbled out. The others watched with cold indifference. Jester finally spoke. This was emergency call. Few came and you nearly slaughtered them all. These were all mid-tier black mages, normally difficult foes in the game. Yet Saron had crushed them with nothing but his aura. His power was undeniable. Jester grew impatient. Hurry and take out the sloth leaf. With Karen's nod, Audrey has summoned his storage while Saron studied him intently. This boy hadn't flinched at the slaughter and carried out the order without hesitation. More importantly, Saren discovered Audria's, like himself, bore dual attributes. Just as Audria's reached for the leaf, Saren silently appeared behind him and blew lightly on his neck. Adrius froze. What the hell? Does Saron actually like men in this game? Marasa scowled in anger. Even Jester barked. This isn't a joke. The other black mages looked equally unsettled, but Serwan called out, laughing softly. Kid, you please me. I'll grant you one favor. No conditions. I have ties with the Cromwell family. Audria's heart jolted. This was a promise, and Saron never broke his word. With his help, Audria's realized he would need to reshape his plans. At that moment, Nis stepped out from the summoning space, all eyes locked onto the sloth leaf in his hand. Without a doubt, he was a true knight. The skeleton Audrey has summoned made Karen uneasy. He had no idea where the boy had acquired such a powerful minion. Saron's gaze fixed on the sloth leaf. He hadn't expected this little skeleton to withstand its power. Audria's was tense. One wrong move and he'd die without a trace, but he forced himself to stay calm. He would gamble everything with these monsters. There could be no hesitation, no mistakes. The air turned deathly still. Audria signaled for Ni to return. In an instant, Ni vanished before everyone's eyes. The crowd recoiled in shock at his decisiveness. At the same time, Audrias drew his long sword and pressed it against his own chest. The blade pierced skin, blood spilling. One push and it would pierce his heart. The room went silent. The jester finally asked, "What are you doing? State your demands. We can talk." Audrey has replied coldly. "I was the first to discover the leaf. My effort deserves recognition." The jester understood immediately. Meanwhile, Marasa secretly cast a spell trying to restrain him from behind, but they had underestimated him. Both the sloth leaf and his skeleton lay in his summoning space. If he died, they would never obtain the complete codex. Audrias then shouted to Serwan, "You promised to help me once. Then protect me now. My wound won't last much longer." Serwan blinked, surprised at his recklessness. He sneered, "And if you're lying to me, what then?" Audrey is his eyes hardened. "Then I die. In this insane world, I choose to be insane too." His words stunned the room. Saron stepped closer, grinning. "You're amusing. I told you to struggle. I didn't say to wager your life." Then he drew a staff, dark power flooding outward. It was a legendary weapon, the demon spear, serpent of evil. Saron declared coldly, "From this moment on, anyone who dares touch a Cromwell dies." Bellally was the first to raise her hand. "I won't touch him. This is getting interesting." Saron's grin widened. "And if any of you come after him later, I'll hunt you down myself. Would you really oppose us all for one child?" Someone challenged. Morosa demanded, "Are you truly protecting him?" Saron's killing intent erupted. "Do I need to repeat myself?" Silence fell. No one dared speak again. Karen was drenched in cold sweat. If they all fought, none would come out alive. Then Jester broke the silence. "Karen student, what do you want?" Audrey has drew his sword again and downed a recovery potion, his strength returning. "Then let's negotiate," he said flatly. But instead of stating his terms, he asked, "What can this fetch?" The jester smirked. "Don't you know what you need? Very well. I'll give you the chance to choose." He handed over a list. "Pick 5. Truly a cunning move. Choose poorly and Audrey's would suffer." Scanning the names, Audrey's quickly spotted several top-tier materials. Among them stood out 2 legendary corpses, the former Elf King Malini and the Tiger King Timur. Priceless resources, he could not afford to let them slip away. Just then, a brute reminded Jester that those corpses had already been sold to Lord Morin. If given to someone else, he would erupt in fury. Audrey is stiffened. Morin, the godfather of necromancers, had already bought them. Provoking him would be disastrous. Damn it, did he have to give up? Suddenly, a voice cut through the hall. Everyone froze. It was Morn himself. All eyes turned to a fly perched nearby. Everything here had been under his watch. He declared that Audrias could take the corpses. Karen jumped up. "Audrias can't handle materials of that level." Morin replied coolly, "That's not your concern. Then he told Adria's, everything on that list that belongs to me, you may have it. Adria's was bewildered. Why was Morin favoring him? Still, he couldn't let the chance slip by. He bowed in thanks and moved on to select the remaining items. Karen seethed with regret. Had he carried the sloth leaf himself, all this fortune wouldn't have fallen into Audrey's hands. Soon, Audrey has chose what he valued most: Blessing of the Moon, Orchid Silver Blossom, Elf's Tear, Root of Parade, and Kadunan's Treasure. Saron smirked. There are better things. You sure about these? Audrey has stowed them in his bag. They might not be the strongest, but they were perfect for his growth now. With them, he could brew 4 potent potions worth hundreds of millions. He even picked materials to treat Lucia's illness. Once done, Jester urged, now hand over the leaf. Adria's opened his storage once more. Jester snatched it up without hesitation while Marasa stood ready to strike in case Adria's tried to retract. In that instant, Serwan flashed behind Adria's. Before anyone could react, he tore open the lair and whisked Adria's away. From their expressions, Audrey is new. Even after surrendering the leaf, they would never have let him walk free. Serwan asked casually, naturally, so where to? I'll take you somewhere safe. Audrey has thought for a moment. Back to the academy. It's the safest place. Arched a brow. Does Bart know you're a black mage? If he did, you'd already be dead. He sighed. Fate is a curious thing. Adria's frowned. What do you mean? Saron chuckled. Like I told you before, struggle, survive, and you'll understand everything. The scene shifted. Adria's was back in his dorm. He pondered what to do with the 2 corpses. Though they could strengthen Naya, his necromancy wasn't strong enough yet. He had to store them for now. The best path was to raise his summoning arts and turn them into true high-tier summons. Suddenly, he noticed a book in his bag. His eyes narrowed. He hadn't chosen any books. Had it always been hidden inside? He pulled it out. It was Morin's own grimoire written by his hand, an advanced tome of black magic. Flipping through, Audrey has found knowledge absent even in Cairn's library. Why had Morin given this to him? If he mastered it, he might elevate the corpses he had gained in a true high-grade summons. At that moment, Ni's status panel appeared: Skeleton Warrior, Evolution Probability 100%. It listed 66 possible evolution routes. Evolve now? Adria's heart pounded, so it was the sloth leaf that had been blocking it. With a perfect chance before him, there was no reason to hesitate. Adria's observed Naya. Unlike vampires, he showed no suffering during evolution, perhaps because he was a skeleton. Suddenly, his dorm door was knocked. His heart tightened. Who could it be? He quickly stashed everything away, eyes fixed on the door. To his surprise, it was Lucia. From her expression, she clearly brought good news. The scene shifted. Saron had appeared in Morn's residence. He posed a strange question. You leaked information about Sloth to me because you needed someone to protect Adria's, didn't you? Morin chuckled softly. Isn't the answer obvious? Saron blinked, then burst out laughing. You took great care of Cain and now his son as well. Wasn't Cain betrayed by the Empire because of his ties to you? Morin interrupted. Do you know the origin of necromancy? It was born from the pursuit of immortality. More precisely, from the obsession to let the one you love remain by your side forever. Sarwan looked utterly baffled. Morn smiled faintly. You understand what I mean? Aside from Cain, it seems you have another connection to the Cromwell family. That secret won't be easy to pry from you. Then Morin asked, what's your opinion of Adria's? Sarwan scoffed. Weren't you there to see for yourself? To him, Adria's was fascinating. Perhaps the craziest man in the world, even crazier than himself. He was already looking forward to that future. Meanwhile, Adria's followed Lucia to her home to meet her father, William. His purpose was to settle the initial profits. Matters of money were best handled face to face. William welcomed him warmly, expressing gratitude for helping Lucia. Audrey has smiled. Lucia helped me greatly too and secured this fine deal. Lucia puffed up proudly. Senior, you should thank me. I vouch for this deal. William then handed Audrey as a contract. He skimmed through it. He was to receive 60% of the profits with 3 million per share, totaling over 1,800,000,000.0. His eyes widened. He had never seen so much money in his life. To think, over 1,000 shares had sold in just 1 month. William reminded him, this is only the beginning. Once your name spreads, sales could easily double. William waved a hand. Enough business talk. It's lunchtime. I must treat you well. After all, this is Lucia's first time bringing a friend home, and more importantly, it's a boy. Audrey is froze. Not good. Don't tell me he's misunderstanding. A month later, the Elbier's potion had become wildly popular, a must-have across society, even a trend in high society. To meet demand, the Merchant Guild expanded factories and opened new shops. In just 1 month, sales topped 2,000 orders. Audrey sighed inwardly. Had I known this would happen, I'd have bought a tablet sooner. Information is power. Honestly, he never imagined he can make so much money from potions. Thanks to its fame, even more nobles invested in him. Now, he possessed 6 billion. The Cromwell estate cost only 3,500,000,000 including fees. Even after reclaiming it, he would still hold massive wealth. But first, he had to buy back the family ring. Soon, he arrived at the National Cemetery. To prevent Paimon's tricks, he had already prepared carefully and contacted him beforehand. Yet today, Paimon wasn't alone. Another figure stood by his side, raising Audrey's guard. Come inside. Let's talk. Paimon invited. Audrey's glanced at the stranger. Who is he? Paimon replied smoothly, a guarantor to make things fair. Luckily, Audrey's was prepared and felt no fear. Moments later, they stepped inside. Audrey's sneered inwardly. Does he take me for a fool? A masked man with a sword. This is your guarantor? What clumsy lie. He knew Paimon had studied necromancy here for some time. But in the game, he was even weaker than Karen. Meanwhile, Audrey's had grown immensely stronger. Both his skills and attributes had advanced. Paimon was no longer his match, especially with Nise's evolution. Now the skeleton wielded aura. Unless his opponent was a true sword chi master, no one could stand against him. The real issue was the masked man. How strong is he? Audrey's considered circulating the aura within his dantian. Normally, he suppressed it, keeping it from clashing with mana, but now he wasn't sure. He said flatly, "Bring out the ring. I want this over with." But Paimon shook his head. Patience. Show me your stake first. The corpse I bought from you was ordinary, but since you were generous last time, I'll pay you 5 million as compensation. Audrey's expression didn't change. Paimon's eyes widened in disbelief, then greed twisted his face. So Audrey's Cromwell has become a man of means. Lavish indeed, as they say. A starved camel is still bigger than a horse. Audrey exhaled slowly. As expected, 5 million won't satisfy him. Paimon's tone sharpened. 5 million? That's insulting. Silence doesn't come that cheap. Audrey asked calmly, then how much do you want? Paimon's greedy gaze shifted to his storage bag. I heard you gained quite a haul at the gathering. 2 items should be fair trade. Audrey remained composed. He'd anticipated this. Thank you for confirming it, he said coldly. 5 million. Nothing more. Paimon's face twisted with fury. You don't seem to understand what I'm saying. Audrey cut him off. Understand perfectly. You never intended a fair trade to begin with. Paimon's face darkened. The masked man slowly drew his sword. Negotiation was over. Audrey sneered. Good. I was tired of your charade anyway. With a wave, he summoned Naya. Both men froze. The skeleton had regrown flesh. Under the influence of the sloth leaf, Naya now carried the sloth wraith trait, his power reaching legendary level. Yet Paimon did not back down. Split the loot in half, he whispered to the masked man, kill the boy. Before his words even faded, Ni blurred and appeared behind him. The masked man reacted instantly, intercepting the strike with a flash of steel. Audrey's voice cut through the air, then let's settle this by strength. The masked man was stunned by Ni's impossible speed. Paimon's heart nearly stopped. Had Ni been a hair faster, his head would have rolled. Suddenly, the masked man's cloak flew toward Audrey's. He recognized it instantly, packed with miniature bombs, a classic black mage trick. With a swing of his sword, Audrey sliced them apart before they could detonate. His mind raced. This man can fight Naya and still target me? Who the hell is he? The masked man dashed forward, sword aimed at Naya's skull. Nya parried, but a slash still tore across his face. Yet in that instant, the man left his footing exposed. Nya's hand clamped onto his ankle. Damn. Nya hurled him skyward, his blade already glowing. A surge of white aura exploded, flooding the battlefield. Audrey's eyes widened. Nya can channel aura into his sword. With a Danshin gain from evolution, it made sense, but it was still shocking. The masked man's resilience only deepened Audrey as a suspicion. This one isn't ordinary. Who is he? With lightning speed, the man lunged again. Blades clashed, sparks filling the room, but slowly wounds opened across his body. Nai surged forward, blades striking like thunder. The man countered with a sudden lunge, his sword piercing Nai's chest. Triumph flashed across his face, then vanished in a horror. Nai's body ghosted through the blade. In a blink, he was in front of the man, his legs turning solid as he unleashed a crushing kick. The man was blasted through the window. Adrias looked out, yet the man did not fall. Payman's undead had caught him. The masked man spat coldly. "If you want more, you'll have to work harder." Adrias cursed. "Damn it." He used the distraction to summon undead. Payman's eyes gleamed with greed. "That skeleton is a treasure. Kill them and everything is mine." His necromancy surged. An army of skeletons erupted from the ground. Even the corpses buried beneath clawed their way up, surrounding the entire house. "Damn it, Audrey is cursed." He signaled Niet to split their assault, kill Paimon, and the entire siege would collapse. As the skeleton army poured into the hut, he burst forward, breaking through their encirclement. They couldn't truly harm him, but constant attrition would wear him down. With a sharp breath, he conjured a jagged stone spike and hurled it, blasting open the front line. "Not enough. I need a real breakthrough." Suddenly, skeletal archers loosed a volley at him from the shadows. He swung his blade in a sweeping arc, shattering every arrow midair, exploiting their reload delay. He dashed in and cut them down in a single strike. Paimon scowled, disbelief twisting his features. Losing to a child? Impossible. Then cold steel kissed his neck. Jad appeared right behind him, yet the masked man intercepted once more. His eyes narrowed. The skeleton wielding aura? Impossible. But Ni's instinct screamed danger. The swordsman was striking again. Boom. An explosion blasted Ni off his feet, hurling him against the wall. Audrey is staggered, chest heaving. The skeletal swarm pressed harder, leaving him no chance to even drink a potion. The tide was turning against him. His stamina was nearly spent, and Ni's condition was uncertain. Distracted, he was slammed by another skeleton, his body going numb as though every muscle were being torn apart. Then a zombie skeleton spat corrosive while dissolving his cloak in seconds. Audrey has clenched his teeth. "I have to hold out until Nier returns. But can I?" Suddenly, a massive shadow fell over him. He looked up, an elite skeletal warrior, axe raised high. Audrey is barely blocked, the impact blasting him several meters back. His arms trembled. He could hardly withstand another strike. Desperate, he lashed out with a rising kick, knocking the axe from its grip, but the blow did no damage. Staggering back, his vision blurred. A lesser skeleton lunged, its skull smashing down on his head. A deafening roar rang in his ears. His consciousness began to fade. Am I dying here to a mere skeleton? If I die, what will happen to Amy? What about Lucia's illness? And Vivian? I finally found a reason to live. I can't. I won't die here. Under the relentless assault, his aura flared, violently surging toward its critical limit. At that moment, a system prompt echoed. Through relentless training and life or death struggle, you've awakened Sword Chi. You can now channel aura. Thanks to his dual core trait, both mana and aura could now flow together. Audrey has gripped his sword once more, the blade humming, and cleaved through a skeleton in a single strike. I have to go back to the place that belongs to me. As he cleared the battlefield, Naya had already slain the masked man and subdued Paimon. Audrey is approached slowly, demanding the ring. Paimon forced a laugh, put the sword away. We can talk. One man's already dead. Negotiation should be easier now. Audria's glanced to the corpse. No evidence could be left behind. He picked up the masked man's sword. Felt far more suitable than his own. Paimon still hadn't realized the situation, blinded by greed. Audria's gaze turned cold. With a swift stroke, he severed Paimon's arm. I'm done talking. Screaming, Paimon immediately revealed the ring's hiding place. But before Audria's could move, Paimon's body convulsed violently, choking as if poisoned. Moments later, he lay still. Audria's sighed inwardly. He had meant only to punish him, but this outcome was convenient enough. Examining the sword, he noticed the blade coated in venom, deadly swordsmanship laced with poison. Who was this masked man? Suddenly, he recalled the name Paimon had uttered. Dan? Could be Brody Dan. If so, the mask itself was a treasure. Audria's lifted it off. The moment he wore it, his features transformed entirely into another man. The mask altered appearance completely, an artifact of disguise. That confirmed it. This was the infamous Brody Dan, the instigator of war in the game. In the future, he would be hired to kidnap the Northern Warlord's heir, sparking war between the North and the Empire. The conflict would engulf the entire continent, dragging Adrias into the chaos. But now, Adrias had slain him by chance, preventing the Great War. He murmured, "Brody Dan, I'll make good use of his mask." He sent Nye to retrieve the ring while he cleaned the battlefield. The next day, headlines read, "Necromancer Paimon and his hired swordsman killed in internal dispute." Audrey is exhaled in relief. With the scene scrubbed, nothing would trace back to him. Soon after, he reclaimed the Cromwell estate, finally back in the hands of its true heir. He couldn't wait to see Amy's reaction. Suddenly, hands covered his eyes from behind, a playful voice giggling. "Guess who?" Audrey sighed. "You're speaking out loud. What's there to guess?" Lucia puffed her cheeks. "So boring. Even when your cute junior visits, you don't react at all." She offered him fruit and Audrey is not at his thanks. She clearly wasn't satisfied. "What else could I say?" he thought. She pressed him about his injuries. He lied, saying it was from overtraining against a strong sparring partner. Then the door burst open again. Vivian rushed in, face pale. Her expression was panic. Seeing Audrey is wounded, she froze in shock. "Elf Master," her voice trembled, eyes full of fear and worry. She darted forward so fast even Lucia was stunned. Before Adrias could react, she threw herself into his arms. With a breaking voice, she confessed her deep concern. Adrias realized her path had diverged completely from the game script. He gently reassured her, "Don't worry. I'm fine." Lucia watched the scene in silence. A stabbing ache welled in her chest. So this is heartbreak, too painful. A week later, Audrey had reclaimed the family ring and invited Amy along. She frowned in confusion. "What's all this secrecy? Why shut the windows? In this luxury carriage, you must have spent a fortune." The carriage halted. "Where are we?" she asked. Audrey only smiled. "My dear sister, step outside and see for yourself." A familiar voice rang out. Amy turned in shock. It was their childhood maid, Luffy. Audrey has explained calmly. "I invited her back to serve as headmaid." Amy panicked, "But brother, we don't have the money for that." She clutched Luffy's hand, telling her not to take it seriously, but then her eyes widened, disbelief written on her face. "Am I dreaming?" Before her stood the Apple Tree Estate, the very home of their childhood. Why bring me here?" Amy's voice shook. Audrey handed her a contract. "Read this." Her hands trembled. It was the deed of the house. "You bought it back? Don't tell me. You did something wrong to afford this." Audrey has chuckled and revealed his patent documents. "I invented a potion. I bought this place with the money from selling it." Seeing the news clippings, Amy finally believed him. Audrey has said gently, "You don't need to work in a restaurant anymore. My earnings will last us a long time." Amy's eyes welled with tears. She felt crushing guilt for misunderstanding him, for resenting him over the ring, for all the harsh words she'd spoken. Audrey has reassured her, smiling softly. "Don't cry. I never blamed you. From now on, I'll be the brother I should have been and make up for everything I failed to do." Yet inside, he knew his combat strength was still lacking. Moran's black grimoire had been invaluable. Without it, relying on Karen's outdated texts, summoning advanced undead would take years. Now, his second trait had awakened, granting him a unique skill. Deep insight, a trait that boosted his understanding of principles, allowing him to master skills and knowledge faster. With Morn's knowledge, he was ready to attempt higher-level undead summoning. He had rehearsed dozens of times already, eliminating every possible cause of failure. Channeling his dual cores, Adrias began the ritual. Mana surged within him. Aura sustained his body. No more fear of collapse. Nyetu was evolving. With his growth and Tamer's strength added in, Adrias' power alone could rival a full battalion. A system prompt appeared. Summon creatures' stats exceed the summoners. Stability decreased. Due to the Tiger King's traits in life, additional effects granted. As the ritual circle flared, the beast's eyes snapped open. Summon successful. Rank legendary. Its sheer might forced an automatic evolution into an undead champion, nearly transcendent in level, regaining fragments of self-awareness and retaining 2 unique skills. The roar shook the air. Thankfully, Audrey had prepared a soundproof barrier where the entire academy would have been alerted. He ordered coldly, "From this moment you serve me." The Tiger King, Timor, bowed with such a force, even Karen was no longer untouchable. Soon after, the final exams began set upon the frozen peaks of Mt. Bipora. The examiner announced the rules. Theme, survival, and points. Students would spend 72 hours on the mountain collecting hidden point markers. Bracelets would track their totals and allow points to be stolen by defeating others. The crowd erupted. Trust would be impossible. Allies today could be predators tomorrow. Time passed. With 46 hours remaining, Audrey has climbed along the cliff face. A full day had gone by. He knew the summit plateau was a natural fortress perfect for defense and offense alike, establishing a base that would be invaluable. But when he reached the top, someone was already there, Diana. She maintained both a wide-range detection spell and a barrier useful but draining. Once her mana ran out, she wouldn't survive long in the blizzard. And sure enough, her reserves were nearly gone. Audrey has weighed his options: steal her bracelet now and remove a rival or gain a powerful ally. As he approached, Diana startled. He warned calmly, "Magic is convenient, but reckless use only dooms yourself." She glared, "You just want me to let my guard down so you can take my bracelet." Her spells still shimmered, but in the next moment, her mana sputtered out completely. Audrey sighed, "Told you this would happen. So here's my proposal." She quickly stepped back, save from a distance. Audrey shook his head. That old disdain for his name lingered. He removed his hat. "Let's form a team. Alone, you'll fall the moment something goes wrong. With a partner, you stand a chance." Diana hesitated. The memory of Audrey is the delinquent clung to her mind. Yet his recent transformation gnawed at her certainty. Could he be trusted? Seeing her torn, Audrey drew out a bag of rations. "You haven't eaten all day. Think you can resist this?" Her noble facade cracked, hunger betraying her completely. Audrey's grinned, "Then let's work together." Meanwhile, two goblins were slaughtering students without pause. The shorter one grew furious. They were supposed to find a green-haired student, yet after several kills, none matched. He spat on the corpses in rage. Suddenly, a floating eyeball appeared, startling them. Staring at the bodies, Guideville snarled, "You idiots, are you blind?" The bulky goblin quickly apologized, still puzzled. Why kill a student in a place like this anyway? Guideville waved him off. "Don't ask. Just follow Lord Jester's orders." Though annoyed, the two monsters had already taken the payment. There was no turning back. They decided to track their target by scent. Human odor was simple, student or teacher. As long as they avoided the professors, the job would be done. Besides, students would all become enemies one day. Killing a few extra didn't matter. The dark mage himself had no faith in them. They were merely bait meant to draw attention. Guideville had already set an explosive array atop the mountain. Once triggered, everyone would be buried alive. Such was the price of angering a high-level black mage. Elsewhere, after teaming up, Audrey Cromwell and Deanna had laid numerous traps. Judging by their points, they ranked among the top pairs. As they moved to the next hunting ground, Deanna grew increasingly curious. Where had Audrey learned such tracking and capture skills? Stranger still, he moved swiftly through rugged mountain paths, nothing like a mage at all. It felt as though he had become a completely different person. Finally, curiosity overcame her. "Honestly, you used to be a complete loser. What happened to you?" she asked bluntly. Audrey replied calmly, "If I didn't change, I would have lost everything. Like you said, I was trash. Back then, I couldn't even protect my sister Amy, my only family. I wasted more than 10 years. When I finally realized it, I swore to change. That's when I found I wasn't useless after all. I had some talent." He then apologized to Deanna for the things he had done to her in the past. She brushed it off, saying those days were long gone. "Then let's head for the summit," Audrey said. Deanna nodded in agreement. At the same time, Ivy, their counselor, watched from distance. She recalled how Borlor killed without blinking an eye. Yet this so-called fool now claimed determination alone had remade him. "What an amusing idiot," she muttered. Audrey studied the map in his hand. "A few more minutes and we'll reach the destination." Points could be earned not only by stealing bracelets, but also by securing marked items on the map. If they ambushed those spots, they would inevitably encounter other students. Just as he signaled Diana to set up, a massive axe whistled through the air. Audrey reacted instantly, barely dodging. The Nalan Geklid, 2 more prey. And finally, someone with different colored hair. Seeing their build, Audrey immediately recognized who they were. Deanna rushed to his side, asking if he was hurt. Audrey steadied himself, though his eyes darkened. Some of the students were still alive. Deanna froze in shock. This what had happened here. The goblin's gaze snapped back to Audrey's. One pulled out a contract sneering. "Green hair, it's you." Adrias frowned in confusion. He had never dealt with barbarians. How could they possibly know him? The goblin sneered, "That's right. We came for you. Made us wait long enough." He added, "Better get rid of that woman. If you really want to live, let the others go. We'll find somewhere more private to talk." Deanna snapped back, "We should fight them together." But Audrey is pointed to the wounded students on ground. Someone has to take care of them until the instructors arrive. She still looked uneasy. "They're killers, Adrias." He answered firmly, "Trust me. I can handle them." Hearing he meant to go with them, the goblins laughed bitterly. "Do you think we're idiots?" But when Audrey is truly stepped forward, they burst in a laughter. "Perfect. Saves us the trouble of fighting in public. Too easy to draw the professor's eyes." In the blink of an eye, they had dragged him to a secluded canyon. If a battle broke out here, no one would notice. The goblins whispered about how to chop off his head. "Let's finish this quickly. Once he's dead, we cut ties with that bastard." The brute growled, swinging his axe down. Adrias slipped aside, dodging with ease. Grawl lunged in right after. But to Adrias, that speed was nothing. He had trained under knee for too long. The brute leapt high, axe slicing toward his neck. A sword flash split the air. The two goblins froze in shock. The massive axe had been cleaved in half with a single strike. "Impossible. He's a mage." Audrey is smirked coldly. "Mantos, Graw, drop your prejudice. Mages can wield swords too." Their eyes widened. "And he knows our names?" Adrias didn't waste time. "Tell me which council member sent you, and I'll tell you what you want to know." Both goblins were stunned. Their target was far stronger than expected. "Doesn't matter. You'll talk soon enough." Gra finally realized the trap. "Guideville, you bastard." Hearing the name, Audrey has pieced it together. It had to be that black mage. Perfect. They'd serve as practice. He gestured to Naya and the Tiger King nearby. "If they try to run, kill them." Knowing there was no escape, the goblins made their last stand. Audrey has decided to use them to sharpen his skills, blending battlefield combat with technique. Manta's strength was monstrous, but Adria's had no need to meet him head-on. Gra thrust his dagger forward. Adria's block twisted his arm, and the blade slipped free. "That's not how you use a short sword." Audrey is mocked. Panic hit Gra as Audrey's blade slashed tore his throat. The clash became a contest of speed, blades flashing in rapid exchange. Meanwhile, Manta's howled, "One I already cut out." Adrias's relentless sword play found openings, slowing his opponent's strikes. Now, he surged forward, cutting into Gross' flank. With a brutal kick, he sent him flying. Turning back to Mantos, Adrias sneered. The goblin's eyes widened. This physique, this skill, no mage should move like that. He fought like a warrior. Adrias only felt his mastery growing sharper. Real combat was the best training. "What's wrong? Don't tell me you're finished already." The Tiger King, seeing this for the first time, widened his eyes. "Is that really a mage?" By contrast, Neriman Khan. Elsewhere, Deanna finally received backup from instructors, though some classmates were already beyond saving. Worried for Audrey she asked her teacher to let her leave and help more students. The instructor firmly refused. Deanna, right now, her cooperation was vital. Deanna clenched her fists. "That's exactly why I can't just stand by. Even if I can't win, I can at least protect myself and stop more needless deaths." Seeing her determination, the instructor relented. "Then be careful. We'll catch up soon." Deanna nodded. Meanwhile, Adrias had already beaten the brute into the ground, leaving him helpless. He pressed coldly, "Now tell me, who sent you?" Yet even on the verge of death, the brute remained defiant. Adria's eyes hardened. Even if they weren't true monsters, they posed a threat. Leaving them alive would be foolish. He motioned for Jack to toss him a sword. "Looks like you haven't suffered enough." His goal was clear: force out the name of the mastermind. If words failed, he had other ways. This as he raised the blade, Graf finally broke. It was Jester who sent us." Mantis snarled, "That bastard's always treated us like animals. Why should I show loyalty?" Gra added, "And it's not just us. There are other dark mages involved." Audrey is stiffened. He had suspected someone from the council, but Jester? That was trouble. After all, Sarone had already given a clear warning. No retaliation afterward. If Jester still dared to move, it meant he believed he could silence Adrias and escape unnoticed. The mass slaughter of students, likely their own cruel initiative. Where are they hiding? Adrias demanded. Hera shook his head. "I don't know. Even dark mages won't openly oppose Roadran. They won't show themselves. Maybe they plan to trigger a disaster burying everyone here. Adria sneered. So that was it. The clown wanted to disguise it all as an accident, eliminate him, and walk away with an alibi, safe from both Cerrone and the academy. As Gro tried to slip away, Adria's voice cut cold. After butchering so many students, you think you can walk free? Even if I spare you, this mountain will not. The scene shifted. A lone figure trudged through the blizzard, finally reaching the summit. Yet Adria's was nowhere to be seen. Just then, Deanna felt something beneath her foot. She glanced down. A trap array. Damn it, an ambush. In the next instant, an attack streaked toward her. Fortunately, her shield was already up. She shouted coldly, "Who are you to attack students of Rod Run Academy?" A voice sneered from the shadows, "And what little rat dares intrude on our ritual ground? You know, ordinary student, are you?" Deanna readied herself for battle. "So you planted these traps on purpose. Don't blame me for killing every last one of you." She began chanting, mana flaring violently, swelling into a blizzard around her. Guideville's eyes widened, dual casting. She had fused blizzard and ice magic. Countless ice lances shot from her hands. One dark mage, too slow to raise a shield, was killed instantly. The others were shocked by her destructive power, but the spell drained her heavily. "Impressive such power your age, one mock, but you're still just a brat." He snatched up a nearby eyeball. Pressing it to his forehead, he grinned. "Let's play a little game." At once, tentacles sprouted grotesquely from his skull. Within moments, his entire head was covered, his form twisting into a monster. Meanwhile, Ivy discovered the students slain by monsters. None were breathing. Then a roar echoed across the snow. When the hell was that? Tentacles lashed furiously at Deanna. Weakened from her spell, her mana was nearly gone. Other dark mages slipped behind her for a sneak attack focused on the tentacles. She failed to notice until a spell slammed into her side. Her shield held barely. She was hurled several meters away. One mage against so many, it was too much. Guideville laughed triumphantly. "I was right, you're just a child. That's your pride?" Adding another ugly head to your already ugly face. Enraged, the creature roared. "You dare call me ugly? I'll tear you apart." Diana smirked. Threats like that only make you sound more pathetic octopus freak. But her mana ran dry. Damn. Is this the end? Game over. The massive tentacles crashed down. A mage with no mana was nothing but a lamb to slaughter. Unless that mage wielded a sword. At the last moment, blades of light tore through the air. A masked, long-haired swordsman burst onto the scene, severing every tentacle in a single strike. Gas erupted. Deanna stared in shock. Who was he? With the mask he'd received from Dan, no one recognized Adria's. He declared coldly, "I'm a mercenary of Rodran Academy. Leave now. I'll handle the rest." Deanna hesitated only a moment. "Can you really face these maniacs alone?" Adria's answered, "Their goal isn't just us. They want to trigger an avalanche across the region. Warn the others now." Until she left, he couldn't summon Naya or the Tiger King. His power was limited. Guideville roared bewildered, "Damn you. Has our plan been exposed? Who the hell are you?" "A dead man doesn't need to know. Ask in hell." Tentacles surged at him. Adria's didn't flinch. He charged headlong to meet them. His sword danced like lightning, slicing the appendages apart as though they were nothing. The other dark mages unleashed their spells, a storm of attacks raining down. Adri's dodged rapidly. One blast landed right before him. He braced with his blade, forced back several meters. But to him, it was the perfect opening. In a blink, his figure vanished. The dark mages froze. "Go to hell." His whisper came from behind them. Diana's eyes widened. His speed, how can anyone move so fast? The octopus beast screeched, a ray blasting from its eye. "Behind you," Diana cried, but too late. At such close range, dodging was impossible. A deafening blast erupted, shock waves tearing through snow and mist. Diana lost sight of him. No. Did he die? A crater yawned in the snowfield empty of the masked man. The dark mage's eyes went wide, disbelief etched on their faces. Diana froze. When did he? All eyes turned. Adria's blade had already pierced the monster's throat. Blood poured as the body went limp, but Adria's noticed the octopus's eyes still moved, staring at him. As a necromancer, he knew well, dark mage creations don't die easily. Sure enough, a massive tentacle lashed at him. Adria's was ready, raising his sword to block. The impact sent him flying, the monster's power stronger than ever before. Adria's gestured sharply for Diana to retreat. It's too dangerous here. The host body was already dead, yet the octopus beast still moved. It had fully taken over. Its tentacles plunged back into the corpse, draining every drop of mana. Instantly, its frame swelled, growing several times larger, its aura surging violently. Audrey's grimaced. The situation was spiraling out of control. He leapt, dragging Diana out of harm's way. The monster lashed out in madness, smashing snow and nearly striking its own allies. "I'll hold it off. Find a gap and get out." Without waiting, Audrey rushed in. The beast wasn't truly strong, but its endless tentacles were a nuisance. Diana hesitated. This masked man had saved her life. Could she really abandon him? Gritting her teeth, she summoned what little mana she had left. A spear of ice formed in her hands. She compressed it tighter and tighter, sharpening its edge. Within moments, the spear flattened into a razor-thin blade of ice. She raised it, the glow fierce and cold. Meanwhile, Adria's kept fending off tentacles. If only he could summon Ni and the Tiger King, this fight would already be over. Suddenly, he sensed a surge of power behind him. He turned. Diana was still there, still stubborn, still defiant. As Audrey forced distance between himself and the beast, Diana struck. Now her spell shot forth, ice blades streaking toward the monster. The weapon tore straight through its body. The octopus beast shrieked as half its form was shredded away. Audrey saw its core exposed. "The magic core, I have to destroy it." He lunged, but a tentacle lashed out, blocking him. Reckless. More tentacles whipped forward, walling him off. Then, without warning, the tendrils impaled the black mages behind it. They screamed, realizing too late they had only been pawns of a jester. Diana gasped, killing its own. Audrey's voice was grim. "It's draining their mana to recover." In moments, every mage was sucked dry. The beast's body twisted, sprouting bone spikes. Its wounds sealed shut, stronger than ever. Suddenly, I see energy wrapped around Adria's, coating his sword, making it sharper, his body lighter. Diana collapsed from the effort. Adrius barked, "Enough. Leave now." He surged forward, blade gleaming with frost. Bone spines erupted from the beast's flesh. Adrius cursed, "Damn, ranged attacks." The spine shot like arrows. He had to halt mid-charge. Before he could breathe, the tentacles came again, but the monster's bloated size slowed it. Audrey dodged aside. He had to find a core. He dashed in close, blade carving a deep wound. Hit the gash, healed instantly, too shallow, useless. Then in a blur, the beast was cleaved clean in half, blood spraying the snow. Audrey froze. "What the?" A figure slid her sword back into its sheath, chewing on jerky. "Ivy, masked man, who are you?" Audrey's chest tightened. She was far more dangerous than the monster. She would soon be the youngest swordmaster in history. Ivy's eyes narrowed. "Don't tell me? Then I'll kill you and take the mask myself." At that moment, the mountain shook, a thunderous blast from above. Audrey's mind raced. The explosive array, if not destroyed, every student would perish. Ivy tensed, uncertain. Within breaths, the tremors grew stronger. Audrey pressed. "The mountain will blow any second. Deal with it," then vanished into the shadows. Ivy cursed, "Cunning bastard. If he was lying, she'd kill him later. But if he was right, stopping the explosion came first." She sprinted toward the summit. Audrey safely hidden nearby, removed his mask with sigh. "Close call, knew she wouldn't chase me. And the array, if it's Ivy, she can handle it." Moments later, the mountain grew silent once more. Scene shift, an ancient city near the Tenira Strait. A mermaid and a bird lay bound within a summoning array. The jester himself, prepared to fuse them with undead essence, but his hands suddenly stilled. He sighed. "When someone's watching, the polite thing is to announce yourself." "Sir one." Siron's voice rumbled back. "Polite? You flatter yourself. If not for your foolishness, I wouldn't even bother." Jester feigned ignorance, eyes narrowing. In a heartbeat, Siron's killing intent erupted, his left hand morphing monstrously. "Seems you've lived too long. I'll cremate you myself." Jester's heart pounded. Even several working together couldn't match Sharon. He must want something. "What do you want?" Sharon smirked, retracting the killing aura, raising a glass of wine. "You already know. If you insist this disaster wasn't your doing, you'd already be a corpse. Lend me the sloth leaf for a week. Do that and I'll let you walk away." Meanwhile, Audrey returned safely to the academy. Rumors spread everywhere. The Dark Mage Guideville defeated by Assistant Professor Ivy Clare. The Alvin family's daughter saved by a masked stranger. The exam overseer was suspended. Bart himself had launched an investigation. This incident had become a scandal. Audrey is new. He had to stay low. Just then, a voice cut through his thoughts. You sure like hanging around the Knight Academy's training grounds? Imagine a mage in a place like this. Got any free time? Lone or wizard? Moments later, she led Audrias into the training arena. A sudden tension gripped Andreas' heart. Has she already found out? You've already guessed why I came here, haven't you? Damn it. With Ivy's personality, one wrong word and she would cut him down without hesitation. Andreas gave a reluctant nod, admitting he roughly understood. That surprised Ivy, and the matter suddenly seemed much simpler. Sorry, but I'm not looking for a girlfriend. His words instantly enraged her. You damn brat, she snapped. Deanna told me about those 2B skin. How do you explain their disappearance? Andreas replied calmly, just like I told the bureau. I slipped away when they were distracted. Luckily, Deanna hadn't revealed that their true target was him from the start. Otherwise, he'd never talk his way out of it. Ivy sneered. Do you really think I buy that story? He thought grimly. As long as he didn't admit it, she couldn't do anything. If you don't believe me, that's fine. If there's nothing else, I'll just... Before he could finish, Ivy suddenly burst forward, her blade slashing at his throat. His body reacted on instinct. With a single strike, he was knocked back several meters. Ivy smirked, a mage like you blocking a strike from a Knight Academy assistant professor. Andreas was stunned. He had only raised his sheath casually. He was already splitting apart. Does that sound reasonable to you? So you think I'm working with those black mages? At that moment, Vivian happened to pass by. Her heart tightened. Could Andreas really be a black mage? Her instincts told her otherwise. Andreas shot back coldly. Every time a black mage case appears, you get paranoid. In the Balaric incident, you even arrested the mage who had restrained me. Still, Ivy couldn't dismiss her doubts. The masked man's figure was almost identical to Andreas, the only difference being the voice. Andreas stood firm. I've already explained everything to the bureau. Ivy pressed harder. Since that midterm exam, Vivian has changed completely. What exactly did you do to her? Hiding behind the wall, Vivian grew uneasy. Andreas had always denied saving her. She never thought Ivy would still cling to this matter. Andreas finally admitted, all I did was save her. Nothing more. Vivian's heart eased instantly, her unease fading away. I knew it. Andreas is the elf gentleman. At that moment, a sharp voice cut her off. Ivy pointed her sword at Andreas. What a laughable lie. A bottom-ranked loser like you claims you can walk freely through a black magic barrier. Just as the tension peaked, Vivian broke the silence. I can prove it. That day, it really was Andreas who saved me. Ivy froze in surprise. She never expected Vivian, who rarely spoke to anyone, to vouch for him. With a snort, Ivy sheath or blade. You're lucky this time, but don't think it's over. I'll be watching you, Andreas. Andreas simply thanked her. At least one thing had been confirmed, the elf gentleman. After the exam, he set off on his way home. To his dismay, Sarwan suddenly appeared before him. One of the continent's strongest figures showing up in public like this. It was reckless. Sarwan scowled. Brat, I'm giving you a personal lesson. You're too weak. Everyone's hunting you down. We start now. Andreas could only sigh. He hadn't absorbed a single word. Saron asked, you know the chi in your dantian and the mana in your heart are essentially the same, right? Andreas nodded. With dual cores, they can be converted, even used at the same time. That was how Saron created his unique technique transfer. Under his guidance, Andreas trained for just 10 minutes, and his mana to chi conversion speed more than doubled. For Soren to invent such a method, it was incredible. Once Andreas had the basics, Soren said, that's enough. Too many eyes here. Just as he was about to leave, Andreas suddenly thought of a question that had long troubled him. Do you know anything about my father and the Clemel family? Saron hesitated for a moment before speaking. Cain was once a disciple of old Morina. Andreas' heart jolted violently at the words, but Saron offered no further explanation. The matter was too complicated. He turned and left, leaving Andreas in confusion. What puzzled the most was that neither in the game nor after arriving in this world had he ever realized Cain was a black mage. Perhaps by buying back the Clemel estate he could uncover some answers. Elsewhere, Amy was busy tidying up the house. The butler, Luffy, interrupted saying, regarding the master study, there may still be valuable items left behind. Miss Amy, you should inspect it first. Hearing this, Amy rose immediately. Perhaps she could find something her father had left behind. Standing at the doorway, she recalled playing hide and seek with her brother there, often scolded for making a mess. More than 10 years had passed in a blink. The door creaked open slowly. Inside was a clutter of items, all buried under thick dust from years of neglect. Suddenly, something caught her attention. She reached out and picked it up. It was a photo frame. Staring at the picture inside, Amy fell silent. By the time Andreas returned home, the study had already been cleaned. It looked as neat as ever, the important items still in their usual places, making a perfect spot for work. At that moment, his sister took out their childhood family portrait. Gazing at the photo, Andreas felt a strange sensation as though the yearning it stirred didn't truly belong to him. The moment he touched the frame, a sudden flash of light burst before his eyes. Both siblings felt a surge of unease. At the same time, a violent tremor shook the room. Andre stepped forward and discovered a hidden door. Clearly, the frame had triggered a concealed magic formation. And since it only activated when both of them touched it together, it meant whatever lay inside was either Kane's inheritance or perhaps his will. Let's go in. If it's hidden this well, there must be something important inside. Andreas gestured for his sister to stay outside. It might be dangerous in there, but Amy, uneasy, insisted we should go in together. He shook his head. There are magic devices here. For you, it's too dangerous. Amy realized she would only slow him down, so she simply urged, be careful, brother. To his surprise, inside was a vast underground chamber. A strange sensation swept over him. It was the aura of black magic items. The same feeling he had sensed from the Leaf of Sloth. He walked down the dim corridor. A bizarre tree came into view surrounded by blooming flowers. As he drew closer, he recognized them rare elf flowers. At that moment, a system prompt appeared, Apocalypse Chapter 0, Pure Original Sin. This was the true body of the apocalypse. Not even in the game had he ever seen it. Why was it here? On one of the branches hung a sealed letter. It had to be Kane's. Perhaps it contained vital clues. The moment he opened it, a massive magic circle flared behind him. In an instant, he was dragged into a consciousness realm. Before he could react, a hand pressed down on his head, startling him. At the same time, memories surged into his mind. They were Kane's memories. As expected, Kane truly had been Morn's disciple. Under his care, a seed had slowly grown over time. It radiated immense magical power. What shocked him even more was that the imperial royal family was involved. Kane's wife had been assassinated and his child was held by the Empire. Before his death, Kane sealed the secret within the formation. This was his life's legacy. Andreas finally began to grasp the truth. The Empire had colluded with the Black Mages. Just as Cerrone had said, the king handed Kane over to Morin, ordering him to study black magic. Kane's research had birthed the sprout of original sin, but once the Emperor achieved his goals, he discarded Kane without hesitation. His wife was murdered. He himself fell ill with an unknown disease and the family declined into ruin. When Kane learned the mastermind behind it all was the Emperor, he sought revenge in his own way, hiding original sin in a place only Andreas and Amy could enter. Just then, a voice interrupted. Andreas, have you seen clearly the memories your father left behind? He turned sharply, seeing Kane. No. Perhaps you should call him Gao Chun. Andreas instantly drew his sword. You're not Kane. Who are you really? Lumen sighed. What a disappointment. I thought with your veteran gamer's experience you'd spot it immediately. Remember that phone call? Thank you for playing our game. Andreas cursed. Damn it, so it really was you. You're the ones who dragged me here. The man nodded. That's right. How does it feel to live in the world of sin? Quite the fantasy stage, isn't it? Andreas clenched his teeth. I'm furious, but I'll ask. Why bring me here? Simple. We want you to clear the game. With your knowledge of it, almost no one compares. Surely you've seen countless times how this world ends. Just like Diana and Lucia, their fates were always the Apocalypse Codex. And so, the world was destroyed by the eruption of original sin devouring all evil and their masters. Andre is challenged. If I defeat the great evils and original sin, beat the final boss, won't that prevent destruction? No. As long as the consciousness of original sin exists, the world will end. To stop it, you must completely control it, and only Cain's bloodline can do that. A system window suddenly appeared. The immature original sin awaits the blood of its contractor. Offer your blood to complete the pact. The man sneered as I thought, original sin has sensed you. In this world, you may be written off as worthless trash. But before original sin matures, only a handful can enter here, and you are one of them, Andreas. In half a year, original sin will gain self-awareness, break through this barrier, and appear in the outside world to seek its host. Andreas' eyes widened. So that's it. I was thrown into this useless role because Cain hit original sin and only Amy and I can access it. Then what do I do now? Simple. Make a contract with it. Become its master. Feed its sin to tame it. Andreas' tone hardened. And the price? If I fail as its host, I'll be devoured. The man nodded. Yes. It's unavoidable. But if you succeed, you and the world will survive. I'm sorry for forcing this on you, but there's no one else. Andreas fell silent, lost in thought. Then the man's voice softened. My son, if it's you, I believe you can do it. Take care of Amy. With that, his fading image vanished. Gazing at the original sin before him, Gao Chen wavered, but there was no other path. He removed his glove and slashed his palm with his sword. A chill struck him. This isn't like becoming an overpowered ice guy protagonist. If he died in the game, would reality vanish too? He didn't know. He could only face it head-on as his blood touched original sin. The next second, an overwhelming surge of energy erupted. Apocalypse Chapter 0, the purest original sin now resided within the user's body. At the same time, Andreas' mana surged, and it would continue to grow as he grew. Over time, that mana would grow darker. The more deadly sins he gathered, the stronger he would become. The more original sins he collected, the more abilities and functions he would unlock. Though he had inexplicably become Andreas burdened with Amy and the Clemmel family, he swore he would protect them with everything he had, and he would avenge the tragedy that had befallen Cain. The scene shifted to the royal palace where a man was reporting to the king, Your Majesty, have we located original sin? Cold sweat ran down the man's back. It was the bureau chief, Rama Wilton. Since Cain's sudden death, it has been impossible to trace his whereabouts. The king erupted in fury, and you dare call yourself head of intelligence. Rama hurriedly advised, perhaps we should investigate the Clemmel family. If they hold it, they will surely use it as a bargaining chip. He kowtowed repeatedly, grateful for being spared. The king's voice was icy. From now on, resume surveillance of the Clemmel family. The king then asked, and what are the Jebel sect? They may have hidden the sin for their so-called divine summoning. Rama replied quickly, I have discovered suspicious activity. A large gathering is expected soon for their summoning ritual. The king nodded coldly. Good. Keep close watch on their every move.
Alright, that's the end of the story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.